Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto finds out the Uzumaki clan was betrayed by Konoha. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Jusen Uzukaze, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto Uzumaki rushed through the trees, desperately hoping that he got to his friends soon. Satsuki Uchiha, his best friend, crush, rival, and many more things. She was currently on pace to traveling towards Orochimaru, believing that he would help her gain power to kill Itachi. The young teenager was sure that Orochimaru would not truly help her. The Sannin member cared only for himself, so why would he help a young woman like her get strong enough to defeat Itachi when Orochimaru could not? No, the blonde knew that Orochimaru would make her powerful, but not too strong. He would take over her body before she even got close to her brother. Naruto had to stop thinking as he finally reached the Valley of the End. A truly amazing place, especially with the statues giving each other the bird. Naruto quickly sighted his target and let loose a sigh of relief. "Saw Satsuki Uchiha," Naruto shouted. He thought it was finally time to make her know. He had found Uzushiogakure and he had found out who were to blame for the Uchiha massacre. It was time she knew the truth. He had no doubt that she would be skeptical, so he would use all the evidence he had. Apparently, his shout had surprised the transformed ninja. She turned around, not having activated the curse mark, much to his relief. How do you know my name?" the girl asked, her lips twitching into a small scowl. Naruto put up his hands in a release seal, startling Satsuki, who instantly jumped back. She heard the teen yell a loud "Kai" before he blurred somewhere. She tried to frantically look around her but was too late as the young boy slapped a seal on her back before activating it. The older teenager was instantly paralyzed and fell to her knees. Through sheer force of will, she turned her head up and growled at him. "What the fuck did you do to me?" Normally, her brain would instantly supply her that he used a paralyzing seal, but she was too enraged to listen. He scowled at her before telling her to listen to him before saying anything. She stayed quiet, not really caring what he had to say, but she needed to get out of these things, and this was the only way. "I want you to come with me, not to Konoha," he quickly stated once she glared at him. "We're going somewhere no one will find us," he said. "I'll release the seals, but I can activate them anytime I want, so don't try to escape. They will turn on if I fall unconscious, so don't even try." He didn't like being so strict on her, but she needed to listen. His perceptive eyes looked into her onyx eyes, instantly realizing that she was trying to develop a plan. The young teen sighed, finally calm and cool. She nodded to his terms and he put his hands in a ram seal before deactivating the paralysis seal. She kicked herself up and scowled at him. "Where are we going?" She started to follow him as he went west. "Uzushiogakure, Uzumaki clan homeland," he informed her. What? Uzumaki clan? She thought to herself. She closed her eyes as she tried to remember anything she could about any Uzumaki-related things. Suddenly, she remembered a book she had read long ago. Well, Itachi read, she listened. The Uzumaki clan were masters of Kenjutsu and Fuinjutsu. They lived in Uzushiogakure. Allies of Konoha. Destroyed during the Second Great Shinobi World War by, and she remembered, although she couldn't really recall the names. Their clan symbol was a spiral, usually red. Red hair from pinkish red to crimson blood. Mito Uzumaki married the first Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki was a legend, rumored to be as strong, if not stronger, than the Yondaime. The Ravenet shut her eyes, trying to think of any other information she could think back to, but the voice of Itachi in her head finally got to her and she stopped. While the 13-year-old was thinking of the things her brother had read to her, Naruto found the dock master. He quickly paid what he needed to, and they both got on the boat. After a few hours, Naruto and his rival finally got to an area of water where there were whirlpools everywhere, ready to suck them in and crush them like little bugs. "How the fuck will we get past those?" she asked aloud in amazement. She looked towards the blonde, but he just rolled his eyes at her before going through a few hand seals. "Thank you, Mom," he said in his thoughts as he remembered some letters his mother had left behind in case she died from childbirth. "Yuzu Arts. Whirlpool release," he shouted. The whirlpools that had previously been large and dangerous shrunk down until calm crystal blue water was remaining. The two quickly hopped off the boat and started running towards the shore. When they finally stepped onto shore, Naruto looked around before deciding to go into a destroyed building. In there, Naruto sat down on the floor, his friend following his example. "Alright. What the hell do you want?" Satsuki snarled at the teenager. He scowled at her and told her to listen and not interrupt. "I'm your godbrother, by a technicality." Naruto glared as she was about to protest and fell silent under his glare. "Your mom and mine knew each other well, and Mikoto-san decided that my mom would be a good godmother," he finished. Satsuki finally nodded, accepting that at face value. After all, he had no reason to lie to her and she couldn't see any signs of lying on his face or body. "Now, I want you to shut up and listen to everything. Don't interrupt, okay?" he asked. She nodded in consent, wonder what he was going to tell her that would be any more shocking or revealing. I was Itachi's student. A sigh was released from Naruto as Satsuki took a sharp breath in and began to glare at him, her beautiful onyx eyes instantly turning red at the mention of her brother. She registered the student part and began to charge at him, only to get paralyzed. Itachi killed your clan for a reason, he stopped as her eyes became even more enraged. What reason could be important enough for her own loving, kind, and caring brother to kill almost everyone in his family, his clan? Almost as though he was reading her mind, he said, war. She forgot her rage a little and looked at him curiously. Why would war happen because of her clan? And how was a small war worth his family? The fourth great shinobi war, he continued. What? She asked in disbelief. What would cause that? She finally felt as though Itachi had a reason. Now that her mind was calmer, she began to quickly connect a few pieces. Itachi killed them to stop a world war, something would cause Konoha to weaken. A civil war. What would cause that? How would my clan cause that? She thought to herself. Naruto, seeing that she wasn't going to say anything, continued. You see, 13 years ago, remember? The Konoha higher-ups began to suspect it was the Uchiha who had attacked using the Kyuubi because of the history when Madara used him to attack the Shodaime Hokage. Also, there were no Uchiha present in the fight, nor were any injured so they were suspected. Naruto took a deep breath and continued. This mistrust and isolation from the rest of the village created feelings of ill will amongst the Uchiha and ultimately rekindled the hatred harbored towards the Senju-influenced government. As such, the Uchiha led by Fugaku Uchiha, your father, began planning a coup d'etat to overthrow the Konoha leadership. In preparation for the coup, the Uchiha started inserting its member within Konoha's command structure to act as spies. Itachi Uchiha was placed in the Anbu, the direct arm of the Hokage, however, Itachi did not agree with the Uchiha's plans, believing the coup would only escalate into another shinobi world war. As such, he turned double agent, providing Konoha with information on the Uchiha's plan. The third Hokage and his advisors quickly realized that they were all ready to fall in to convince otherwise, but Shisui Uchiha still tried, using the ultimate Jinjutsu Kodomatsukami, a move from his Mangekyo Sharingan, to force the Uchiha elders otherwise. Danzo thought this was a waste as they were still going to kill the Uchiha and took Shisui's right eye for himself before Shisui had a chance to use it. Having failed and fearful that Danzo would take his other eye, too, Shisui entrusted his left eye to Itachi before committing suicide. After finding his body, the Uchiha believed Shisui had, in fact, been murdered by Itachi, and the suicide was staged, and, as such, no longer trusted he still wanted to find a non-violent solution. Shisui's death convinced Itachi that events could no longer be stopped. Naruto didn't mention that Itachi had given him the eye, and no one knew that. Itachi started to dislike the clan and became critical about it. The elders and that bastard Hiruzen, he spat out Hiruzen like it killed him to say the name, surprising the girl as they always showed a good relationship, like a grandfather and grandson. Decided to take advantage of Itachi's feelings and told him to eliminate the Uchiha. Itachi agreed, having been a pacifist and not wanting more bloodshed. They explained the two possible outcomes. The Uchiha could be allowed to carry out their coup, an act that would ultimately lead to the entire clan's extermination, including Itachi and his younger sister, Satsuki Uchiha. Alternatively, Itachi could assassinate the Uchiha before the coup took place and in exchange would be allowed to spare your life. Itachi opted to save you over the entire clan. He also asked me to help and protect you throughout the time. He had trained me before so that I could protect you, he told me to be the dead last, so I could be on the same team as you. No Satsuki, that Itachi chose the village over his entire clan, over his mother who had raised him since he was born, but he placed you leagues above the village itself. If the Uchiha were to do their coup, what would happen? The fight in Konoha would weaken the village, since many shinobi, both Uchiha and non-Uchiha would die, weakening the village. When that happened, others would have causing the next great shinobi war. The young teenager took a deep breath before he heard sniffles. He looked forward, only to see Satsuki Uchiha, the cold princess, crying. He couldn't imagine this scene ever happening, but he wasn't going to tease her. After all, he too had cried when all this had been explained to him by Itachi. Naruto didn't want to mention the man who had helped Itachi, as he didn't know the full info, and he didn't want to be wrong about anything, especially since Itachi told him nothing, but that he was an Uchiha. Naruto stepped forward and wrapped his arms around his crush, comforting her with soft reassurances. The Uchiha era stiffened at the contact at first, but eventually relaxed in his arms for the next hour. Eventually, she calmed down and her thoughts started racing, her heart desiring revenge, but it was no longer directed towards her precious brother, but at the people of Konoha. Those lying, hypocritical, motherfucking bastards. She thought to herself, finally letting herself go. Wait, why does Naruto hate them? She asked this question alone and shivered at his dark gaze. His glares were a little scary, but that darkened stare, filled with hatred that glowed slightly a crimson blood-red color. Well, for a couple reasons. 1. The Sandaime, the hypocritical motherfucker I trusted for some reason, ordered the Konoha shinobi to not help the Uzumaki when Iwa, Kiri, and Kumo attacked them, and they obeyed without hesitation, not caring that their sister village was being destroyed. And why? Because we were so fucking good with Fuinjutsu and Kinjutsu. He shouted. The entire village hated me and always treated me like the plague. To them, I was worthless, a demon in human skin. They tried to kill me as much as they could. Beat me when they wanted. Thankfully, Inu, Kakashi, was there to help me out a lot. No one besides your brother and Kakashi as Anbu helped me. I don't care about it now, but it hurt a lot when I was a child before I was trained, especially since I didn't have any friends back then. He paused as he looked at her. We are friends, right? He questioned. It seemed that he was laying his heart to her, showing his vulnerability. Of course. You're my only friend, Naruto, except maybe Kakashi. I don't care about the other, they could die for all I care, she reassured him, giving him a happy smile smirk. 3. Those bastards never even gave a fuck about either of us. No one ever adopted me when I was an orphan and let me die, and I know why, but you were never adopted either. I mean, they just left a 7-year-old girl alone in a clan ground where her entire clan was killed and they didn't even think about that. Me, I can understand, but you should have at least been adopted. Hell, they could have adopted you just because you were an Uchiha so they could have got money, but they just left you there. I know you don't need now, but you were just a 7-year-old. Didn't they think about how it would have haunted you to live where your family died? Then they have the nerves to worship the ground you walk on and kiss up to you, damn it. I will only let a few people go if they want to, and that is the Ichirakus. Naruto finished his rant with anger. He had to take a few breaths to calm down. Satsuki had to smile a little. She couldn't help it with all the protectiveness he was showing. It was nice. Well, at least he's intelligent. Does he know about Hinata? Hey, Naruto, do you know about Hinata's crush on you? She asked with a smirk, wanting to destroy the tension. Naruto chuckled as he realized what she was doing. Yeah, I knew, but I don't feel the same way. I don't hate her, but I don't exactly love her. Her personality and mine are just too different. Besides, she admires me and that was what formed it. Her crush was an optimistic guy who didn't give up after an attempted fail. I am not that guy. I am not the happy, sunny guy she likes. Maybe in another timeline where I was different and there were some changes, maybe I would accept and recuperate them, but not now, he told her. Besides, I like you. Satsuki gave a nod. She didn't really care if he liked the girl or not. His love life was none of her business. They tried to kill me as much as they could. Beat me when they wanted. A sudden jolt hit her as she remembered what he told her earlier. Naruto, why did they hate you so much? There is no reason to hurt a child, especially you. She demanded. Naruto sighed as he got ready to reveal one of his largest secrets, not as large as his heritage or his connection with Itachi, but still very important. He wouldn't lie to her anymore. He refused to do it for something that he shouldn't even care about. The Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi into me, he told her. Satsuki blinked in shock before her rage came running back at her. Though she yelled in her mind as she instantly knew what the effect would be. They hurt her only and best friend, framed her brother, killed her family, and destroyed her clan. Why? She asked. He looked at her confused, causing her to elaborate. Why you? Why would he seal it into you? She questioned. What were the chances that, out of the hundreds of babies that day, Naruto was chosen for the role? Her best friend, her only friend, being chosen. He had no other choice. Only Uzumaki and Senjus had enough chakra and the body to hold them back. If it was sealed inside, say Ino, then she would have died after a few years and it would be released again. Since I was the only Uzumaki alive, a lie. He decided to seal it in me, he concluded. Satsuki nodded at him to continue, knowing that there was more. Another reason is that the Yondaime was noble but too trusting. He couldn't seal it into anyone else if he wasn't willing to make the same sacrifice. After all, the Hokage's highest priority is the village, not his family. It's why I hate the position so much, Naruto explained. Satsuki was a bit confused. Sure, he wasn't dumb or anything, but he used to shout that he would become Hokage. Now, she could see that it was a part of a mask that he had put on, but why did he say it so much? To convince them. It was really unnecessary to repeat it so much. Wait, willing to make the same sacrifice. Did that mean Naruto was the son of the Yondaime? Of course. The Yondaime would probably never sacrifice a baby, at least not without very important reasons. If he considered trying to use another, that would be selfish of him as he was trying to save his own child. Since Naruto was the only Uzumaki, he would have to seal the Kyuubi in Naruto. He couldn't do it in another baby, so he had to sacrifice his own, even if he wasn't willing. Her unorganized thoughts caused her to be lost for a while, glaring at the wall in front of her. Naruto asked her a question, but she couldn't hear it, trying to organize through all the information that he had given her. Thankfully for Satsuki, even if she didn't know it, Naruto had taken her earlier words to heart and thought that she wouldn't reject him, even for the Kyuubi. After 20 minutes, Satsuki came back to reality and saw Naruto standing up and looking at the village. She walked towards him and placed a hand on his shoulder, knowing what it felt like to know your entire family was dead. Just like her, he stiffened at the contact, but relaxed a moment later when he realized Satsuki was the only one on the island. "So what are you going to do? Take revenge?" she asked him. He shook his head. "We need to be smart. We need allies like, say, Suna, but first, we need to get stronger. We can't get allies if we are weak, Chunin level ninja. We train for the next 3 years cause Jiraiya told me that's when Akatsuki will start moving. This means Itachi will be coming after me and the other members will go against the other Jinchuriki," he told her. She nodded, opting to ask him about what Akatsuki were later. "After 3 years, we can rescue Jinchuriki, making sure Akatsuki can't get them, and gain allies to help us destroy Konoha. Infiltrate it, get the info we need like shinobi strength, security, and other things. Then, we leave again, getting a few people like Kakashi, Jiraiya and Tsunade," he continued. Satsuki's eyes twitched. What did she still not know? "After that, we can kill the villagers before making our own village. Rebuilding Uzushiogakure and remaking the Uzumaki clan." Naruto finished. Satsuki nodded, not exactly knowing how he would do that when he was the only Uzumaki alive. Besides Tsunade, she realized. After all, the current Hokage was the granddaughter of Mito Uzumaki. She was too old though, she couldn't have children at all, right? No, Satsuki isn't thinking about Naruto and Tsunade being together. Unless there were more Uzumakas left, which there might be, then he would have to do it by himself. The next day, Satsuki asked Naruto what Akatsuki was, what Jinchuriki were, and a lot of other stuff. He calmly answered everything he could, but he couldn't do everything, since he himself didn't know who the Jinchuriki were or the members of the Akatsuki besides some people like Tadara, Itachi, and Kisame. The two clan heirs had trained the past 3 years. They learned many ninjutsus from the Uchiha scrolls that Satsuki had brought as well as the ones in the Uzumaki homeland. Along the way, the two had learned improved their Kinjutsu, Jinjutsu, Taijutsu, and Fuinjutsu. They also focused on chakra control since Naruto needed the control, while Satsuki needed the reserves. Year 1. Naruto and Satsuki went about the island and discovered scrolls that contained Fuinjutsu and well as water, wind, and lightning jutsus. Satsuki had used her Sharingan to recognize and decode all the seals. She had also used a Taijutsu to memorize every kanji, as well as how to use symbols to hide the true intentions of the seals. Her progress was amazing, able to get up to level 2 on the Uzumaki scale, which was nearly on par with Jiraiya. Naruto, on the other hand, blazed through the seals and did it as easy as breathing. Able to decode every seal. Satsuki's progress was amazing, but Naruto completely surpassed her. He could get up to level 5 out of 20. This level had never been reached by another non-Uzumaki. To be able to create and master the Hiraishin, you had to be level 3.5. Naruto had recreated his father's technique and was also able to figure out a way to improve it a bit. The Hiraishin worked very similarly to the reverse summoning. The kunai or mark had the seal to alert the person to where it was as well as the methods to get there. The kunai itself contained the user's chakra. The seal alerted the user where it was, and another part of the seal reverse summoned them to the kunai. What his father hadn't thought of was that he didn't need the kunai or seal to teleport near where he was. If you had spread your chakra throughout, it wouldn't be very far, but if you mixed your killer intent, which had higher range, with a bit of your chakra, you could teleport to where you needed in the range. It also had a beneficial side effect of your opponent's freeze if the Kai was high enough. It also used very little chakra since it was already there. I don't know if that is exactly how it works, but hey, it is fiction for a reason. When they had gotten good enough in Fuinjutsu, they had drawn a resistant seal on themselves using Shadow Clone. Naruto had suggested this when Satsuki asked him to draw one her stomach. He had never been a darker shade of red. Of course, they later improved it so that it slowly increased its level, so that it always felt 2x harder to move than it did before. Satsuki so far had gotten to level 12 100s, while when they had gotten good enough in Fuinjutsu, they had drawn a resistant seal on themselves using Shadow Clone. Naruto had suggested this when Satsuki asked him to draw one her stomach. He had never been a darker shade of red. Of course, they later improved it so that it slowly increased its level, so that it always felt 2x harder to move than it did before. Satsuki so far had gotten to level 12 100s, while Naruto had reached 11 100s. Next was Kinjutsu. Satsuki had brought her mother's sword, Karasu, a 44-inch katana made of chakra-conducting metal. The young Uchiha had also brought her mother's scrolls as well. Mikoto called her style Raigeki, which used quick jabs, slashes, and cuts while infusing the sword with her lightning affinity. This always literally shocked everyone when it hit. The technique let Mikoto channel her lightning affinity chakra, which then went inside a person's body. The previous Uchiha matriarch also let a bit of her regular chakra flow in, then, when it was all over the body, turned it into dangerous electricity which killed the person. Satsuki was able to improve it to let her use fire as well, which her mother didn't have. Now, when the sword hit, it also burned them. She could also focus her fire chakra into the sword, then fire a condensed ball of fire at her opponents. Naruto had also brought his mother's sword, Benahem. However, he didn't have a style, so he looked around on some of the few buildings he had explored. Flashback: Naruto had just finished looking through the second building and came across the third building. It was a brownstone building with large swirls that were carved in. The building itself was 2 stories tall and very decayed. Most of the stone had fallen apart on the top right and left corners in the front. Damn it, Satsuki already has a style and is ahead of me. I need to find a style so I can train in Kenjutsu. The blonde thought. The shinobi entered the door and looked around. When he looked towards the left he saw a door with some writing on it. He went to the door and read the script. Hello, my fellow Uzumaki brethren, I am the 23rd clan head of the Uzumaki clan. Inside of this door are 2 scrolls for the Uzumaki Kenjutsu style. There is an offensive and a defensive. Pick whichever you want and study it hard. If you are one of my descendants, you will also be able to find another style next to it. You must drop a bit of your blood into the center, and if you are able to open it, you are free to use the bloody whirlpool dance. Mito Uzumaki. Naruto went inside the door and saw 3 pillars. The first 2 had a scroll on it, while the third one was blank except the spiral. The soon-to-be 14-year-old went to the third pillar. He bit his thumb and quickly pressed it at the spiral before the Kyuubi healed it. The spiral slowly opened and a scroll took its place. Naruto grabbed the white scroll and opened it up. At the top was the title Bloody Whirlpool Dance. How perfect, the blonde ninja smirked. Flashback end. After he had received that scroll, he used 200 shadow clones to memorize all 200 katas and made it muscle memory. He also used his shadow clones in the style as well. The jutsu was where they had to improve or make their own styles. Satsuki used the interceptor fist. It used the Sharingan to predict the movement of the opponent. Because of this, they could easily hit where the opponent was going to go. There were a few openings in the style, but that was easily covered by the Sharingan. Satsuki herself decided to add her fire affinity to the Uchiha Taijutsu style. Surrounding her limbs with her fire chakra, she used the fire to blast hot white flames at the opponent. Of course, she didn't just shoot fireballs, she used them to cook her opponents. Naruto used Uzumaki Ken, the swirling wind fist, previously known as swirling fist. It was a mixture between a defensive and offensive styles. When you wanted to, you could defend or attack. Naruto, of course, added the element of wind to it. He covered his hands in wind chakra and turned them into wind claws. Using the claws as blades, he could cut the skin of the person. Both used a resistance seal to upgrade their strength and speed. They had to take it once a week so that their speed didn't blind them. It also helped them speed up their reflexes. By the end of the years both had gotten up to level 33 100s. Satsuki was a little faster than the blonde. This blonde was a bit stronger than Satsuki. Satsuki had realized that they both needed to increase their senses if they wanted to sense approaching attacks. The black-haired teen had decided to slowly channel chakra into their senses. Every day, they increased the amount until they could hear anything within 200 meters, see 300 meters, and smell anything in a 20-meter radius. To send someone farther, Naruto always sent a pulse of chakra around them. If anything disturbed the pulse, it would be sensed by Naruto. Of course, he made it so only ninjas could disturb it. The only drawback was that, if there was a sensor in the path, they would sense it and find them too. Naruto had realized that he was pathetic at chakra control. He needed to be able to control his reserves, so he thought of creating new control exercises that combined other ones. He added the leaf spinning exercise to both tree walking and water walking. Both used this technique until they could spin 10 leaves on their fingers while running across up the water tree. Satsuki already had good control, so she used this to increase her chakra reserves. Of course, it would never reach the amount that Naruto had. Satsuki then combined the tree walking and water walking. It was called waterfall walking. There was no waterfall so they had to make one. Jiraiya had taught Naruto a few Doton techniques. He used this to raise the ground upwards. They did this at the back of Uzushiogakure where there was a lot of land and water. He had raised up the ground up to 3 stories tall. Then, Naruto used a basic suit in Jutsu Mizu. It just supplied a bit of water, but with Naruto's chakra reserves, he supercharged it and spit out a huge amount of water. This was too much so a water-clad Satsuki threatened him to do it slowly with a few clones and less power. Naruto had hastily nodded his head at the threat and followed it. After that, they both climbed up that waterfall. It took Satsuki 4 days to get it and Naruto 1 week. After that, Naruto had remembered the Goju Fuin. It had completely messed up his chakra control. Naruto had relayed this to Satsuki and she had agreed to put one on herself. After putting it on, they had taken 1 month to fully get all the control back. After unsealing the seal, they had found their chakra control had quintupled. Ninjutsu was when Naruto and Satsuki got creative. Both used jutsu they knew and got ideas to make new ones. Satsuki had taken a fireball and uncompressed it. Now it was a huge sea of white flames. She had made derived jutsu from Chidori. Chidori current, sword art. Chidori katana, Chidori senbon, Chidori sharp spear, Kirin, Rikiri. Both her and Naruto had also used the basic jutsus and made them collaborate with other jutsu. One was when Naruto used shadow clones and transformed them into kunai. He then stored them for use. Satsuki had done the same as him, but with fewer shadow clones. Since they did nothing but transformation, they lasted for around a week. They also used kawarimi with kunai to catch people off guard. They had perfected most of their jutsu, so it required no hand seals for the low-ranked and a few seals for high-ranked. It also had no side effects like smoke. Naruto combined Bunshin Daibakuha with his clone kunai. This made kunai that could explode without a seal, and it was unexpected. He also made variants with Rasengan like Adoma Rasengan, Cho Adoma Rasengan. After discovering his elemental affinity of wind and water, he had also created two variations. One was called Futon Rasengan. The other was called Suiton Rasengan Typhoon. He added water on top of the Rasengan and kept adding it. Spiraling, swirling chakra plus endless amount of water equals a big typhoon of water. The two teens had also collaborated their own jutsus with each other. Their elements complemented each other. Naruto's wind and Satsuki's fire. The same went for their water and lightning. Heian, Dikakyu, Suiton, Sugaden. A large bullet of water and a giant ball of white fire were coming at each other. They clashed at the middle, creating a large amount of smoke. Naruto took advantage of the smoke and disappeared. He reappeared behind Satsuki. He tried to punch her, but she leapt forward while turning. She took out her sword and dashed towards Naruto. The blonde shinobi also took out his sword and charged. They both met at the middle. The sound of metal clashing with metal echoed out. Naruto quickly ducked and slashed at her stomach. She jumped back and threw a few kunai. Naruto dodged the kunai right as it sailed past him. Age Bunshin no Kawarimi. He whispered, creating a smokeless shadow clone and switching with it right before dispelling it without smoke. Satsuki appeared where one of the kunai was and swiped his sword at him. Ninjutsu. Hinatama. The fireball came from the sword and headed straight towards the 16-year-old. He quickly went through a few hand seals and spitted out a compacted ball of water. Again, smoke arose. This time, however, Satsuki charged towards the smaller smoke and covered her hand in lightning. Chirping birds echoed out but was quickly silenced. Now, it was a compacted blade of lightning. She saw a figure coming at her, a spiraling sphere in his hand. Naruto had heard the chirping of the birds and created a shadow clone. The clone created a Rasengan in its hands and rushed at the smoke. He focused his chakra into his hands and a yellow kunai came out. Uzumaki art. Kongofuksa. Kunai. He waited until he heard the clash of the compacted Chidori and Rasengan. After hearing it, he shunshined behind her and rested the kunai at her throat. "I win Satsuki-chan," he whispered. Satsuki shivered at the breath on her skin. Feeling the kunai, she conceded by nodding. "That makes us even. 50-50 with 200 draws," she said. "Satsuki, I think we should start on our plan now. It's been 3 years and the Akatsuki will start looking for Jinchuriki any minute now," Naruto said seriously. He had explained to her what was Akatsuki and who he knew was in it. He had figured out all this info from having a clone in the office when they were in Konoha. "Let's get Gaara first. He is the only Jinchuriki I know that we can find," Naruto said. Gaara would be the easiest to convince. Naruto wasn't going to recruit every single Jinchuriki, but that didn't mean that they couldn't help him. He knew Iwa wouldn't help. He didn't know where all of them were, so he had to look through the books to see where the Biju were sealed. He knew which country every single Jinchuriki was now. "Well then, we should go now, no point in letting Akatsuki get ahead," Satsuki pointed out. He nodded and they both walked towards the shoreline. Since they had much higher reserves, they could run to the other side of the body of water. After running for 30 minutes, they got to the other side of the port. After arriving there, they both headed toward Suna. After running for 3 days, the two finally saw the entrance to the hidden sand village. Going up to the entrance, they saw a bunch of dead shinobi. Searching for a chakra signature, they felt one that was still alive at the back. When they got there, the shinobi was barely alive and his eyes widened upon seeing them. Naruto and Satsuki went up to the man and asked him what happened. The Sunanin told them that 2 people infiltrated. They had taken the Kazekage and headed out. After finding out which way they went, they also headed out. They ran for 40 minutes before being intercepted by a shark sword. In front of them appeared an Akatsuki member. His name was Kisame Hashigami. He had a distinctive shark-like appearance, complete with blue-gray skin. He has small, round, wide eyes, 3 sets of curved facial markings under his eyes, gills on his shoulders, and sharp triangular teeth. He had on the Akatsuki's black cloak with red clouds. He also had on a brown sash that went from his right shoulder to left hip. He had his samehada in his hands. "Diss him!" shouted Naruto. The 16-year-old ran at the shark man with a Rasengan in his hand. "Suiton! Bikusui shma!" The Akatsuki member attacked. Naruto saw the water coming at him and jumped up. He put his Rasengan in front of him and started swirling the water like a whirlpool. It sucked and kissed him and he was now at the middle. Naruto increased the rotation of the Rasengan and the water started to form into a hurricane. He threw the now Rasengan. Hurricane. At that time, Satsuki put her hands on the hurricane and said Raiden. Jabashi. The electric hurricane went straight towards the shark-like man. He jumped to dodge, but his opponents got behind him and drew their swords. The man blocked it with his own samehada. They engaged in a clash of swords and slashed and shred each other. After a few minutes of clashing blades, they finally separated. Naruto and Satsuki had a few cuts on their clothes and body. Kisame had his cloak cut around with blood flowing out of a few cuts. Naruto sent a small amount of killer intent in the air and mixed it with his chakra. He then disappeared in a crimson flash. He reappeared right above Kisame with a Adoma Rasengan. He thrusted the attack right on his opponent's back. The missing nin was sent spiraling forward. Satsuki appeared in front of the legendary swordsman and jabbed her lightning-covered fist through his stomach. Chidori. Kisame started to bleed through the wound. Suddenly, he started to shift until a complete white figure with green hair replaced him. Naruto and Satsuki then ran off in the same direction they were going before. When they got near, like 1 min away. The entrance, they both sensed a few shinobi going the same way in place they were. They recognized one of the chakra signature as Kakashi's. Satsuki's eyes turned into slits and she jumped to the side to intercept them, but Naruto stopped her. Satsuki, I know you hate them, but it is not the time for this. We need to get to Gaara. We'll destroy them another time. Naruto told her. She nodded begrudgingly. They kept running forward until they reached a cave that was enclosed by a boulder. There was a seal in the middle of it. Naruto quickly figured out what it was and sent a team of clones to shut down the other seals. Then, they both hinged so they looked different. They both now had red hair. A few moments later, 4 other people appeared next to them. One was Kakashi Haddock, another was Sakura Haruno, then Hinata Hyuga, and a woman they hadn't met. "Who are you?" questioned the copy nin. "We are bounty hunter nins. A price has been placed on Deidara the Mad Bomber. We want to get his bounty, and this was the last place he was seen." Satsuki explained quickly, hiding her hatred for them. Since Deidara was a missing nin, he had a bounty in Iowa. They might need the money for later times, so it was a good excuse. Kakashi nodded and said, "Well, that's acceptable, you can battle him and take his bounty, but we need the Kazekage." Looked at the boulder and continued, "First, we need to take these seals off. Don't worry, I sent clones to take the others off in the same time. I sent 602 for each and 1 can dispel when they are ready." Naruto replied. His clones dispelled right then and he quickly tore off the seal along with the other 3. Then the Banshee, pink-haired nin destroyed the boulder. Tsunade also taught the girl Sakura her strength technique thought Chio, Naruto, and Satsuki at the same time. They all entered the cave to see a lifeless-looking Gaara and 2 other people. One was Deidara. He wore their signature cloak, navy blue pants with matching shinobi sandals, and an Akatsuki ring on his right index finger, which bore the kanji for blue or green and was teal in color. He also wore black nail polish on his fingers and toes. There was another man next to Deidara. You already know what Sasori looks like. Imagine Leaf and Chio versus Sasori is the same as canon, but with shadow clone Chios and more puppet humans for her. They faced each other and separated the Akatsuki members from each other. Naruto and Satsuki chased after Deidara while leaving the others to beat the other one. Deidara created a clay bird and rode on it into the sky. He sent a bunch of clay and used his explosion Kekai Genkai to make them explode. This was useless on Satsuki, who covered her body in lightning and made them duds. Naruto sent a bit of his Kai chakra at him, then Hirai shined behind him. He drilled the other blonde with a Rasengan. He fell to the ground and Satsuki easily shredded him to pieces with her lightning-infused sword. When he was finally shredded, the giant clay bird, along with himself, exploded. Satsuki recorded this with her Sharingan. After their battle, the 2 best friends went back to the other battle. When they arrived, they saw a red-haired man that was slowly dying. They got close to him and he told them some information. "I have a spy within Orochimaru's ranks. He was supposed to meet me at Tenchi Bridge in 10 days. It might help you guys." After getting the information, all the shinobi looked at the dead body of the Kazekage. He was dead and they had no way to revive him. "Well, all but Chio that is. I can revive Gaara, but it will cost me my life force," Chio said. She really wanted to revive Gaara. She was going to die soon and it would be for the better if Gaara didn't die. She needed to pay for the mistakes of the past after all. The Konoha shinobi nodded somberly. They didn't like any one of their comrades dying. They cared a lot about them. Naruto and Satsuki didn't exactly care. She wasn't someone they knew or cared about. She was a stranger to them after all. And Sakura and Hinata took Gaara and all of them started going back to the village. When they arrived near it, they laid Gaara in a grassy field and Chiyo hovered over him. She went through the hand signs for her revival technique. Hisham Tensei. She shouted. Her hands were covered in chakra and placed it over the previous Jinchuriki chest. The old woman's life force began to fade away while the Kazekage's was restored. The redhead's eyes began to slowly open. He looked all around him and then saw all the people in front of him. His eyes widened in surprise and confusion. He was confused on who his fellow redheads were. He hadn't ever met them in his life. He was surprised to see the Konoha shinobi there and Chiyo dead. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice mixed with confusion and surprise. Deidara vs Naruto and Satsuki place. All the pieces of Deidara slowly started to turn into white skin. A distortion appeared and two figures appeared. "Well, it appears that Deidara will need to get a new partner," one figure said. "It appears so." The other figure said, "I will fill that role it seems." "Where am I?" Gaara asked, his voice mixed with confusion and surprise. Why wouldn't he be? He just had a Biju extracted out of him and died. He then saw Chiyo lying deceased and his eyes widened in realization. Did Chiyo use her reincarnation jutsu? He asked. He saw them nod and asked himself why did she revive me? I am not that very important to anyone in the village. He was cut off by a shout of Kazekage-sama. He looked towards the direction of the voice and widened his eyes upon seeing all the shinobi of Tsunagakure. Did they come to see me? He thought. All the ninjas started celebrating upon seeing Gaara, who was still in shock from seeing them. After all the shinobi went to Chiyo's funeral, the Konoha shinobi left to go back to their village. Naruto and Satsuki asked to meet Gaara in private. He allowed this and made them follow him into the Kazekage tower. After getting to the previous Shukaku Jinchuriki's office, he sat down in his chair and asked them, "What did you want to talk to me about?" The redhead felt them channel their chakra and got his sand ready. What he saw stunned him. In front of him were Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto wore dark red cargo pants. He had on a dark blue shirt. Sasuke had on a dark black shinobi pants with grey long-sleeved shirt. And Naruto? Sasuke was interrupted by another poof from Sasuke. In the poof, a feminine Sasuke appeared. "Who are you?" he asked confused. A woman just appeared in front of him, replacing where Sasuke Uchiha was. "My name is Satsuki Uchiha. Sasuke Uchiha was a persona developed because of a jinjutsu that protected me from Kra," she stokely explained. Gaara was shocked as hell. Sasuke Uchiha was a female, what the hell? He compassed himself, after all he was the Kazekage, and asked, "Alright, Naruto, Satsuki, what are you two doing here? I heard that you had left to Orochimaru and that you had taken Naruto with you." "That's a bullshit story made up by Konoha. They assumed that Satsuki captured me and left. I wanted to leave that village and since I cared too much about Satsuki, I went to find her, then took her with me," said Naruto in anger. "Gaara, don't tell anyone that we aren't at Itagakure," he then requested. The Kazekage nodded to his first and best friend's request. "Okay Naruto, but only because you are my best friend. Now tell me where you two were if not at Orochimaru's village," he asked curiously. Where were they during the 3 years? Why does palpably dislike Konoha? These questions were rushing through his head. "We were training at my clan's homeland, Uzushiogakure." Naruto responded to the question. Gaara was shocked. His village had attacked the village and had obliterated it with Kumo and Kiri. Another reason he was shocked at this was because his best friend was an actual Uzumaki. The Godin Kazekage nodded his head, gesticulating them to continue. "I want to destroy Konoha for a couple of reasons. One is that they stabbed Yuzu in the back and let the other nations invade the Uzumakis. 2. They treated me like trash and would never help me no matter what. They always beat me and tried to assassinate me. 3. Is for just who they are. I want to show the world what they truly are. They portray themselves as the kindest village, but look at what happened to me, how they treated me. How they treated Satsuki-chan. They said that they loved her, but look at them now that she left. Look what they did for her. They never helped her at all, just kissed up to her. Others might be alike, but they have a reason. Iwa hates them because the Yondaime Hokage killed many of their people. Tsuna used to because Konoha took the money from here and never helped them, despite being allies. They are also full of assholes. Look at the White Fang, their most powerful shinobi, stronger than the Sannin, harassed into suicide for doing what the village is always going on about. Teamwork and comrades are important, yet he is harassed into for putting his comrades first. They even forced Ida. Naruto ranted furiously until Satsuki interrupted him. Gaara had to admit he made a lot of good points. He still needed to know why they were here. He had some suspicions, but just to be sure. "Alright, you bring up a lot of good points, but why are you here?" he asked. Naruto looked at Gaara and said bluntly, "We want your help to destroy Konoha." The Kazekage sighed and said, I really want to help you, Naruto, after all, you're my best friend, but my village is very important to me. If we waged war against Konoha, we might lose and this time, they might destroy this village. Don't worry Gaara, me and Satsuki will infiltrate Konoha later and destroy and damage a good part of the village. You should ready your forces and tell them to start training hard. When we deliver a message via Toad. When we do, you should send your forces. We will go back and I will summon Gamabunta to help me. We should be able to destroy them to the point that they aren't a threat. After that, we could destroy that place to the ground. The blonde said seriously to the Kazekage. Gaara contemplated this, there were a few benefits to this. One was that if the people heard that they destroyed Konoha, the strongest nation, many clients would come to them, which would highly increase the economy of Suna. The daimyo was still sending some missions for Suna to Konoha like before. Another was that if they did destroy it, they could take over the land, giving them the geological benefits of it. Suna and Konoha had different geological benefits. It would give them more area to help both civilians and shinobi. More training fields. More marketing places. The alliance didn't help them as much as it did Konoha, but they had to agree to avoid being destroyed. He also got to help his best friend. Okay Naruto, I will try to convince the council that we should go to war with them. I'm with you, but the council will need some convincing. After all, you can't easily convince them that two 16-year-olds are a better ally than a whole village, right? Chuckled the redhead. Naruto nodded and replied, okay Gaara, me and Satsuki will come back in about 2 weeks to get the answer. He said happily. Oh yeah Gaara, here, Naruto fished into his kunai holder and took out a Hiraishin kunai in case you need it. Gaara's eyes widened upon seeing the legendary kunai. He took it, but before he could ask any questions, the two disappeared in a bolt of lightning and a tornado of water. The blonde and Ravenette appeared a bit away from Suna. Now they needed to go to another place as well. Orochimaru's place. It was a good thing that Naruto had left a Hiraishin kunai hidden in the land of hot springs during one of the rests they had when coming to Suna. Naruto grabbed Satsuki by her midriff and pulled her closer, which caused a small tint of pink on her cheeks and teleported them to the nation of hot springs. After landing safely near the border of fire, hot springs and Odo, they quickly hurried towards the hidden sound village. Satsuki knew precisely where it was, having gotten a map for it 3 years ago. They hid behind the rocks around the village that was erected by Orochimaru during the 3 years from a small base to a town-sized village. The two partners phased out and knocked the protectors of the gate out. Taking in the appearance of the two Odo ninja, Naruto and Satsuki performed the Ipai Henge, an advanced form of the normal henge. It was just as it was named, a solid transformation of what you want it to be. It was a ninjutsu-jinjutsu hybrid, mostly ninjutsu though, that was accidentally recreated by Naruto during the academy days. They looked at the schedule for the time the guards patrolled. Since their time was nearly done, they departed from the gates and traveled to the stone house at the middle of the village. They quickly reached it and went inside, only to find 2 more Odo ninjas. They looked at the 2 hinged shinobi and questioned why they were there. After replying that they needed to file a report for their guard duties, they were let through. They went down the dark stairs, releasing their transformation along the way. They finally entered the dark orange base of Orochimaru's and slowly searched each door. Suddenly, they paused as they sensed someone coming. The Sagakure Satsuki whispered, touching Naruto's shoulder, and faded away into thin air. A few moments later, a man recognized as Kabuto Yakushi walked through the halls. They stealthily walked past the man, but they were unprepared for him to suddenly cover his hands in chakra, creating a chakra scalpel and slashing Naruto at his face. Through his instincts alone, Naruto was just barely able to dodge it. Satsuki blurred behind the bastard who hurt her best friend and shoved a kunai through the back of his heart. Of course, he survived this due to his Inyushimetsu. He didn't see the Idoma Rasengan coming right at his stomach. Kabuto flew through the air in a spiral pattern until they couldn't see him. Continuing through the halls, they finally came across the door that hid Orochimaru from them. Satsuki charged her right hand with lightning chakra and condensed it. She then thrust her hand forward, the lightning lengthening, going straight through the door until they heard flesh being pierced. Naruto kicked the door down, Benihim covered by wind chakra. They saw Orochimaru with his hands up. Orochimaru was a tall man with long black hair. His skin was so pale that it looked like his skin was paste white. His eyes were angular and very snake-like with pale golden pupils. His ears had purple tomo-shaped earrings. He was wearing a red button-up shirt with brown palm trees on it. His hands were raised up in an X position, Satsuki's Chidori spear. Satsuki walked closer to the snake-like man, her lightning spear going forward as well. The pedophile snake forced his hand to the side so that it didn't pierce his face. She used her free hand to take out Karasu and swerving it down vertically. A distortion appeared at the air before it was covered by azure flames. They went straight towards the sick and unhealthy shinobi and burning his skin. The snake sage opened his mouth and another Orochimaru appeared from between. Satsuki and Naruto shivered. That is still creepy and disgusting as hell. They both thought the snake settled onto the ground and opened his mouth again. This time however, a handle to a blade appeared. The handle was grabbed and pulled, which caused the rest of the blade to appear from. Orochimaru swung the blade at them, its length increasing. Naruto and Satsuki dodged to the side and jumped towards him. Naruto created an Idoma Rasengan in his hand, while Satsuki created a Chidori. They pulled their hands back and threw them forward. Orochimaru ducked under them and kicked them upwards. While in the air, the two friends glanced at each other, and after a quick confirmation from each other, they turned to each other and held out their jutsu to each other's. The A-rank jutsus collided without any force. Unexpectedly, the two jutsus absorbed into each other. A white light appeared in between their nearly conjoined hands. When the light disappeared, a black sphere with dark purple lightning coursing inside the most inner shell. Black electricity was shooting out of the sphere. They both pulled back and yelled collaboration. Yami's Inazuma no Shikik. And hurled the purple sphere towards one of the legendary Sannin. It hit its target and Orochimaru was at the ground bloody. He slightly and was able to just barely open his mouth. Something shot out of it and Orochimaru's body died. They both looked towards the place where the thing went and saw. Continued. Orochimaru ducked under them and kicked them upwards. While in the air, the two friends glanced at each other and after a quick confirmation from each other, they turned to each other and held out their jutsu to each other's. The A-rank jutsus collided without any force. Unexpectedly, the two jutsus absorbed into each other. A white light appeared in between their nearly conjoined hands. When the light disappeared, a black sphere with dark purple lightning coursing inside the most inner shell. Black electricity was shooting out of the sphere. They both pulled back and yelled collaboration. Yami's Inazuma no Shikik. And hurled the purple sphere towards one of the legendary Sannin. It hit its target and Orochimaru was at the ground bloody. He slightly and was able to barely open his mouth. Something shot out of it and Orochimaru's body died. They both looked towards the place where the thing went and saw a giant white snake made up of many smaller snakes, with longer, spikier hair, a scaled face with snake-like teeth and a long tongue, black eye markings, and a pointed chin. Orochimaru hurled his head towards Naruto with his mouth wide open. Releasing his killer intent, he Hirai shined behind the snake and blasted him with a Futon. Raijin. The massive wind dragon shredded Orochimaru all over, leaving many deep cuts all over his body. Orochimaru then went to Satsuki, but was blasted by lightning. However, the snake turned into a mud clone. From behind Naruto, the head of Orochimaru came at him. Naruto, caught off guard, got swallowed. Then, Orochimaru started his living corpse reincarnation jutsu. Mental plane. Naruto appeared in a place in which the ground was full of moving, slimy, organs. Orochimaru also appeared in front of him. Both were covered in the organs so he could only see the snake Sannin's hair and face, which had returned to human form. Hello Naruto-kun, this is my mindscape. Here, everything is in my control, I am God. I will take over your body, use your memories, and take over Satsuki-chan's body at a later time, Kuku. Insanely laughed. Mindscape huh, idiot. Naruto smirked and closed his eyes. Suddenly, the area around them started to shimmer until all there was a dark void. Then, it started to change once again, this time, they appeared in an area where everything was golden and white with stars all around. Where Naruto met Kushina. Naruto attacked Orochimaru. Orochimaru was about to dodge, but unable to move. He looked down and widened his eyes upon seeing golden chains around his legs. Naruto created a Futon Rasengan that tore through his body. Orochimaru died in the mindscape as black chakra seeped out of his body and into Naruto. The Uzumaki had just absorbed all the jutsus, knowledge, and chakra of Orochimaru. In his last breath, Orochimaru asked, how did you do this? This is my mindscape, I am God here. You are not God Orochipito, he insulted, you are a mere mortal with a god complex. I am a Jinchuriki, I can easily access my mindscape. You need a jutsu or meditation to go in here, I can do it at will. When you had foolishly told me it was a mindscape, you didn't realize that I could also control it. After that, it was a mere matter to transfer us here to my mindscape, where my will is much stronger than yours. I control this realm. He explained. Real world. When Naruto was swallowed by Orochimaru, Satsuki was very angry. She charged a Chidori through her hands and put forth more chakra. The Chidori grew in size until it was the size of an Idoma Rasengan. She ran towards the giant snake and slammed it right at his head. This destroyed the head. Then, a Kaiten. Kankakik no jutsu to the rest of the body and it was burned into ashes. The Ravenet then went to the unconscious Naruto and put his head on her lap. She looked at his face adoringly while softly petting his whiskers. He unconsciously purred and she giggled. Naruto finally woke up to see that he was in Suki-chan's lap. He got up after a few moments of enjoying it. What happened in there Naruto-kun? Satsuki asked curiously, her head unconsciously tilted to the right. Orochimaru tried to take over my mind, but the idiot was stupid and died in there. I absorbed his chakra, knowledge of the ninja world, as well as all the jutsu he know. I'm gonna teach them to you. The teen replied. Satsuki nodded her head to both the answer as well as him teaching her Orochimaru's jutsu. For the next few days, Satsuki had her Sharingan copy almost every jutsu of Orochimaru's that Naruto used. Some of them were already known to her, and some were ones that Naruto that was disgusting or not good for them. She learned Binding Snake Glare Spell, Chakra Scalpel, Earth Release. Hiding Like a Mole Technique, Earth Release. Shadow Clone, 4 Symbol Seal, Genjutsu Trap, Genjutsu Binding Hidden Doorway Technique, Hidden Shadow Snake Hands, Hideout Destruction Trap, Hiding in Surface Technique, Many Hidden Shadow Snake Hands, Shadow Clone Technique, Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique, Snake Mouth Bind, Sound Wave Technique, Summoning. Impure World Reincarnation, Summoning. Rashomon, Summoning. Triple Rashomon, Sword of Kusanagi. Longsword of the Sky, Temporary Paralysis Technique from him. Once Satsuki had copied all the jutsu, they both created hundreds of Kage Bunshin and had 19 Kage Bunshin focus on each one. After they all practiced for an hour, all the groups would dispel one at a time, 10 seconds each. Since the chakra left always went back to the user, plus their very high reserves, they were able to create more. This went on for 5 hours every day. Due to this, they had allotted a total amount of 21 days and 21 hours for each technique. They mastered every single jutsu. The two had also created a summoning seal with the Kusanagi. The seal connected to a seal they both had on their right arm. This way, they could both use the legendary sword when needed. Naruto and Satsuki had also trained with Kusanagi every day. They mastered the sword's different uses and figured out a way to merge it into their Kenjutsu style, which allowed the 2S class rank shinobi to use either 1 or 2 swords to fight. Since they still had 5 more days left to go to the bridge, Naruto explored some of Orochimaru's memories and discovered some people who could help them in their quest. There were 3 people, Suigetsu Hazuki, Karen Uzumaki, and a person named Juugo, whose body could apparently absorb nature chakra. When Naruto found out about Karen being his family, he was ecstatic to meet her. After discussing this with his best friend, the two agreed to go get the 3 as they would be helpful. Both headed towards Suigetsu since he was the closest. The teens headed towards the lab that contained Suigetsu. After 10 minutes of traveling, they finally got to lab number 18. They dived underwater and went over to the other side of the area. After resurfacing, they both pulled themselves up and channeled chakra to their feet to walk on water. Looking around, they found themselves in an area with many holding tubes. Naruto and Satsuki went towards the only one that held a being. After getting right in front of it, the Uchiha heiress withdrew her sword and cut the tube open, spilling all the water out. She then sheathed Karasu. From all the remaining water on the floor, a white goop started to come up. It morphed into a being afterwards. Suigetsu is a lean-built young man of average height, straight white hair with a light blue tint to it, almond-shaped purple eyes, and like most of the members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, he has pointed teeth, one of which stuck out even when his mouth was closed. He wears a purple, sleeveless shirt with blue pants, sandals and a belt around his waist, with water bottles attached to it. He also had another belt attached to his waist. As he was standing up he said, "Thank you." Naruto Uzumaki Satsuki Uchiha the clan heirs introduced. "Thank you for freeing me, I assume that you both killed Orochimaru since you are both here." The white-haired teen said. "Yeah," Satsuki nodded. "Suigetsu, you're the first, come with us." Naruto said seriously. "So, I'm the first, meaning we'll get more company?" He asked. "Do more." The raven-haired woman said. "You go from the northern hideout of Orochimaru's and Karen Uzumaki from the southern hideout." Naruto continued. "Uzumaki? You and Karen are related?" Suigetsu questioned. "Yeah, I'm not sure how, but we are from the same clan." The blonde-haired shinobi said. "Damn it," he muttered. With their heightened senses, the two heard him and Satsuki asked, "What?" "It's just that I'm not fond of them. I don't think I'll get along with those two." Myself aside, I wonder what you two plan to do with those two after retrieving them. The aspiring swordsman of the mist replied. "Doesn't matter, we aren't asking you 3 to get along, just work together, you don't have to be best friends." "Now let's go," Naruto replied then commanded. Satsuki and he walked off, but Suigetsu started laughing. He said, "Speaking like you're better than me, are you?" The purple-wearing shinobi phased out and in, right behind Naruto, holding his thumb and ring finger in a gun position. "Let's make our relationship clear." He was interrupted by a puff of smoke. When it cleared, Naruto was behind him, Kushina's sword at his throat. "Fine, you helped me due to your own convenience. I haven't said a single word about coming with you and your girlfriend. He or she isn't my boyfriend-girlfriend." They replied with blushes on their cheek. In his opinion, Satsuki looked pretty beautiful and cute. All 3 compliments intended. "Whatever, you two aren't above me just cause you two killed Orochimaru. Everyone was after him, you guys just got there faster." The boy said. After a stare down between them, Suigetsu just jumped forward a bit and said, "Just kidding, since you two freed me, I guess that I'm free to go. Finally able to do what I want." The boy said and walked off. The Uchiha and Uzumaki heirs just sighed and said, "I see, how unfortunate." and left. Time skip. Outside the lab. 2 minutes later, as they were walking through the forest, a voice came up front. Come to think of it, wasn't it you two and your sensei who defeated my great senpai, Uzumaki? They stopped walking and looked at the giant puddle that Sujetsu was swimming in. I wonder what happened to his sword, the Kubikurum. A short pause. How about this, if you two lead me to the sword, I wouldn't mind helping you too. He offered. Naruto opened his holster and took out a scroll with a kanji for sword. Naruto poured a bit of his chakra in and, with poof of smoke, the decapitating carving knife appeared. He threw it towards Sujetsu, who easily caught his dream blade. Where did you get this? He asked the blonde. When we buried Zabuza and Haku, a Yuki member and Zabuza's apprentice, I knew that the sword would get stolen, so I took it and sealed it in a scroll. Naruto replied. Satsuki and Sujetsu nodded, and all three headed out towards the southern base to find Karen Uzumaki, the next member to their team. Continued. As they were walking through the forest, a voice came up front. Come to think of it, wasn't it you two and your sensei who defeated my great senpai, Uzumaki? They stopped walking and looked at the giant puddle that Sujetsu was swimming in. I wonder what happened to his sword, the Kubikurum. A short pause. How about this, if you two lead me to the sword, I wouldn't mind helping you too. He offered. Naruto opened his holster and took out a scroll with a kanji for sword. Naruto poured a bit of his chakra in and, with poof of smoke, the decapitating carving knife appeared. He threw it towards Sujetsu, who easily caught his dream blade. Where did you get this? He asked the blonde. When we buried Zabuza and Haku, a Yuki member and Zabuza's apprentice, I knew that the sword would get stolen, so I took it and sealed it in a scroll. Naruto replied. Satsuki and Sujetsu nodded, and all three headed out towards the southern base to find Karen Uzumaki, the next member to their team. At an island to the south, a scream echoed out as a woman wearing lavender uniform that exposes her navel, short black shorts, and long black thigh-high stockings with black sandals. Her face and hair shadowed. Just because that bastard Orochimaru is dead doesn't mean that you can run free, you killers. The woman spoke. Suddenly, the woman froze. She had just sensed a huge amount of warm chakra. She had never felt anything as warm and kind as it. As she probed it, she felt herself freeze in fear. Deeper inside this warm chakra was an evil and sinister feeling. It was as if it was made of anger and hatred. For some reason, the chakra was approaching her location. This chakra and the feeling with it was a little familiar to her. She remembered sensing it around 3.5 years ago. She walked through the jail cells, allowing them all to see the woman in front of them. She has crimson eyes, fair skin, and the characteristic red hair of the Uzumaki clan. Her hair is short and spiky on the right side, while longer and straight on the left side. She wears brown narrow glasses, and her outfit consists of a lavender uniform that exposes her navel, short black shorts, and long black thigh-high stockings with black sandals. This was Karen Uzumaki of the Uzumaki clan. She was kidnapped by Orochimaru, who, as she later discovered, had killed her entire family without her knowing. He had appeared as a man who wanted to help her, and she, as an impressionable child, followed him. For the longest time, she had been loyal to him until she had discovered him when he was talking to his ass-fuck buddy, Kabuto. The bastard had knew she was there, so she was forced to heal who he wanted with her blood. She had a unique bloodline, well, bloodlines. Anyways, her blood allowed anyone to heal instantly. She had trained in Fuinjutsu after she had eventually remembered her clan from her mother. She had kept this a secret from her captor though. She had also trained in some other things. After all, she was in Uzumaki, and she had obtained their limitless energy and stamina as well as hyperactivity, just more controlled. But Naruto, Satsuki, Sujetsu, the trio were walking through the water in the middle of somewhere. They had been walking to the southern hideout for 2 hours now. Finally, an island appeared in front of them. They ran towards it, positive, at least Naruto, that it was the southern hideout. The appearance was very weird. It was a bunch of rocks that were probably hollow, jutted upwards. They arrived at the shoreline and looked around only to see a cave entrance. The new team walked through the entrance and saw another door. Satsuki and Sujetsu noticed that there were no guards around the door. Why are there no guards here? Sui voiced the question. There is no need, after all, she guards it. Spoke Naruto. His borrowed knowledge from Orochimaru had given him everything Orochi knew. You mean Karen? What makes her so special that only she needs to guard this entire prison? He asked while destroying the door with his new sword. She is a sensor with a vast range. She can sense things that are miles away. The blonde shinobi answered. Sui nodded to the answer, indicating he understood. They went inside the hideout and throughout the stone prison. Naruto sent out a pulse of chakra. It bounced every way until he finally found Karen. He put his arms around Satsuki's waist instinctively and Sui's shoulder. He didn't see Satsuki's blush or hear Sui's thoughts. I thought Naruto said they weren't boyfriend-girlfriend. In a flash of white, blue, and black, the trio appeared in front of a stunned and surprised Uzumaki. An unspoken Uzumaki concerning rule, never appear out of nowhere and surprise them. Anf saw the teen spoke as multiple golden chains rushed from her, held out palms and attacked the intruders. Naruto summoned his own adamantine chains, though they were swords. He slashed the golden chains with his own golden sword, we're densary. Wait. We're friends. Naruto shouted at her. She didn't trust them, but she let her chains rest to hear them out. Alright, talk. The Riti demanded. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. He was interrupted by Karen's wide eyes and her exclamation of Uzumaki. What do you mean Naruto Uzumaki? I mean that I am in Uzumaki, my mother was Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto pointed out. Kushina? That name sounds familiar. Realization appeared on her face. Oh, yeah, Kushina Uzumaki, my mom's cousin. Kachan always talked about her. Guess we are cousins then, nah? She asked in amusement. The reply she got was, guess so. With a smirk. So, why are you here? She asked. Satsuki Uchiha points at his crush. Sujetsu Hazuki points at his new comrade, and I are making a new team. We will have one more member with us. What do you say, cuz? Wanna join? He asked. What about Orochimaru? She asked nervously. She might hate the motherfucker, but he was still much stronger than her. Don't worry, we killed him. Just don't spread it out though, can't let anyone know. He smiled warmly at her. Satsuki twitched upon seeing it. They were family so it was natural, but it still bothered her at the thought of her best friend being with other girls. Wait, do I love Naruto? She blushed at the thought, which confused the hell out of Sui and Karen. After sorting her thoughts out and throwing in the reason she could like him, she confirmed that she did love her crush. Meanwhile, Karen nodded at Naruto's request. After that, they left the base. When they got out, Satsuki and Naruto glanced at each other and nodded. Futon. Tatsumaki. Naruto gathered his wind chakra at his lungs and breathed it out. It started to swirl until it was a giant tornado. It gathered the water around it to form an outer shell made of water. Raiden. Kikshikaminari. Satsuki brought her pale hands downwards, causing unnatural lightning to fly towards the water typhoon. Collaboration. Kaminari no Tatsumaki. They shouted. The lightning mixed with the water and vaporized it, leaving only vapor around the tornado. The tornado now had little water droplets around it. Every time the water vapor was cooled, the lightning vaporized it. The blue plasma was jumping from water droplets to droplets, vaporizing them, while they turned back to water. The tornado was surrounded by lightning all over after a while. Naruto and Satsuki then brought the tornado down from the sky on top of the base, completely shredding and burning it. Sujetsu and Karen were shocked upon seeing the power that their friends had. They shook it off and excitedly asked what the hell that was. The clan heir smiled and explained it to the other members. So who are we going to get next? I remember you saying you need one more person. Since you have Sujetsu and me, I'm guessing it is someone from Orochimaru's. She asked. Naruto looked at her and nodded to her question, but Satsuki was the one who spoke. We're gonna recruit Jugo from the northern hideout. She nodded. She didn't have a problem with the guy, just thought that he was a psychopath. At an island to the northern hideout, at an area made of brown rocks that were pretty tall, a sound of insane laughter echoed throughout the walls of the hideout. Looking at the inside of a certain cell, we find a man with orange hair laughing insanely while saying if the next person to come works for Orochimaru, I will kill him or her. Go is a tall, muscular young man who has spiky orange hair, red-orange eyes. He wore a pale blue shirt and pale green shorts. He has a giant black metal ball chained to his leg. He freezes as he feels a large amount of negative energy. He calms down from his murderous side. Outside the northern hideout, the quartet arrived at the outskirts of the hideout. The group of four headed inside the hideout, sensing the strongest chakra inside the cells. Finally arriving at the cell holding it, Satsuki opened it. Jugo looked up to see a ravenette woman. He asked, do you work for Orochimaru? Satsuki nodded her head no. Why are you here then? He asked once again. We're here to free you and if you want, to join our team. Naruto voiced. Free? No, he shook his head, you can't free me, if you do, I'll get angry, then go insane and hurt you. He stated confidently though hurt. Don't worry Jugo, I can absorb Senjutsu chakra due to an incident that happened 16 years ago. Since you get angry and the Senjutsu amplifies it, I can absorb it while you learn control. You can train with it to control with me near you. What do you say Jugo, would you like to come? Naruto offered. After thinking about it, Jugo nodded his head. Clothes landed on him and he looked at Satsuki. That dresses, can't have you going out like that, can we? She told him. They left the cell while Jugo changed. Now he had on a black muscle shirt with grey cargo pants. He then left his cell. Naruto Satsuki, since we are all gathered now, what is our goal? Sujetsu asked. Our goal is to destroy Konoha ultimately. Don't attack recklessly though. Me and Satsuki will go to Konoha with you three. We have a plan ready. Naruto told them. Anyways, right now we need to be patient. I will take you to our base, Yuzu. You three will train of the schedule that we will create for each of you. I will teleport you there. We will be back in a few days alright. While the trio were hesitant, they nodded and he put his hands on Suigetsu and Karen, who touched Jugo and Satsuki's shoulders. Concentrating on the Hiraishin mark that was on Yuzu, he teleported them to the island. Naruto then grabbed Satsuki's waist and Hiraishined them to the outskirts of Odo. Since they had one day left to meet the Konoha team at Tenchi Bridge, they had a plan to lure the Konoha ninja to attack them and follow them to their base. When there, they would make a clone of themselves to give a message to Kakashi. They knew the Kakashi would be there since they were there. Kaka-sensei was one of the few people they liked at Konoha. 3 hours later, they had been running for 3 hours now. They were at Akatsuki, a village they had saved in the past. As they were running through the forest, they heard the sounds of fighting. Naruto sent out a pulse of chakra towards it and Hiraishined there with his hands around Satsuki. When they appeared in a blue and black flash, they saw two people fighting with a girl around their age. The girl was petite androgynous tan-skinned kunoichi, who wore an orange clip in her short layered mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her ninja outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long wide armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short wide apron skirt over it. Her forehead protector was worn on her right arm, though it had a slash on it. FK also carried a cylindrical object in red wrapping on her back. The attackers were people that Naruto recognized as Hidan and Kakuzu. Kakuzu was a very tall tan-skinned man with long dark brown hair. His eyes had an unusual coloring. Green irides, no pupils and red sclerae. He still appears as a man well within his prime, retaining a very muscular build despite his advanced age. He retained the black mask over his lower face but had several changes. He donned a white hood which covered his hair. His clothing included the traditional Akatsuki cloak, the Takigakure forehead protector with a scratch in the middle, which symbolized that he was no longer loyal to it, and gray pants with matching shinobi sandals. He also wore brown nail polish, and a dark green Akatsuki earring with the kanji for north was placed on his left middle finger. He had various stitches on his body. Hidan has medium-length gray hair that was slicked back and distinctive purple eyes. He had no shirt but bears the organization's cloak, which he kept slightly opened, revealing his Yugakure forehead protector around his neck and Jashin amulet. He changes his bottoms to gray pants with matching shinobi sandals. He also wore dark green nail polish and his orange Akatsuki ring on his left index finger, which bears the kanji for 3. Continued, they had been running for 3 hours now. They were at Akatsuki, a village they had saved in the past. As they were running through the forest, they heard the sounds of fighting. Naruto sent out a pulse of chakra towards it and Hiraishin there with his hands around Satsuki. When they appeared in a blue and black flash, they saw two people fighting with a girl around their age. The girl was petite androgynous tan-skinned kunoichi, who wore an orange clip in her short layered mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her ninja outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long wide armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short wide apron skirt over it. Her forehead protector was worn on her right arm, though it had a slash on it. FK also carried a cylindrical object in red wrapping on her back. The attackers were people that Naruto recognized as Hidan and Kakuzu. Kakuzu was a very tall tan-skinned man with long dark brown hair. His eyes had an unusual coloring. Green irides, no pupils and red sclerae. He still appears as a man well within his prime, retaining a very muscular build despite his advanced age. He retained the black mask over his lower face but had several changes. He donned a white hood which covered his hair. His clothing included the traditional Akatsuki cloak, the Takigakure forehead protector with a scratch in the middle, which symbolized that he was no longer loyal to it, and gray pants with matching shinobi sandals. He also wore brown nail polish, and a dark green Akatsuki earring with the kanji for north was placed on his left middle finger. He had various stitches on his body. Hidan has medium-length gray hair that was slicked back and distinctive purple eyes. He had no shirt but bears the organization's cloak, which he kept slightly opened, revealing his Yugakure forehead protector around his neck and Jashin amulet. He changes his bottoms to gray pants with matching shinobi sandals. He also wore dark green nail polish and his orange Akatsuki ring on his left index finger, which bears the kanji for 3. Knowing information about some of Akatsuki thanks to Orochimaru's knowledge, the two partners knew about the immortal duo. Kakuzu had 5 hearts that let him live even if killed unless 5 times. Hidan was an immortal due to some god that was named Jashin. They didn't know why Orochimaru never become a Jashinist, since the bastard had no problems with killing other people. He would bring utter chaos and destruction with deaths all over. That was all that was required. But Fu had been captured, or better said, given, to 2 people. One of these 2 she knew. Kakuzu, a man who had lived for over 100 years. A powerful man that had fought the god of shinobi, Hashirama Senju. The man used a sacred kinjutsu called Earth Grudge Fear. The Earth Grudge Fear is a secret kinjutsu of Takigakure which transforms the user's body into something similar to that of a rag doll, held together by hundreds of thick black threads. Kakuzu had stole the knowledge of this technique before his defection from Tokigakure and was able to manipulate black threads for many purposes. Some of them were listed on his page in the bingo book. This technique allowed the missing nin to have 5 hearts, meaning that he had to be killed 5 times. Anyways, Fu was given to the 2 men by the council of Taki, ignoring the vote of the village leader. The 2 Akatsuki members had gone on to Tokigakure due to Kakuzu's plan and went to the council. The ninjas had been hesitant to attack one of their most powerful shinobi yet, as well as his companion, an S-class missing nin. Fu still remembered what that damn council of bastards did and what happened afterwards. Fu's flashback, Fu was in a sacred place to her. It was hidden behind a waterfall that no one had ventured into. On the other side was a very small waterfall that poured into a lake at the center of a grove. Unlike the falls that hid Taki's entrance, the clearing had several sparse groupings of flowers. Their fragrance, combined with the crisp, clean air produced by the water and the earthen scent of the forest, gave the area an appeal even the majestic falls outside of Taki's entrance lacked. As Fu was relaxing by the peaceful river, a conversation was happening within her mindscape. Fu was in a large forest. The forest was covered in large deciduous trees. As Fu kept walking throughout the area, she finally arrived to a clearing. The clearing had a small stream with fishes swimming. Sunlight shone through the thick trees, making the clearing appear as on spotlight. Next to a stream, there was a log that was used as a seat for a man. The man had long, spiky blue hair. Madara-style, orange eyes. He wore a long-sleeved light blue shirt and pants, with mesh armor shirt and fitted black suit underneath, along with calf-length sandals. Around his waist he wore a brown sash that held a brown armor-like breastplate with a pouch in the front, a brown backplate on the back that is connected to the front with mesh armor, and armored lapels falling to the sides. This was the human form of Chimay, the Nanbi, the rhinoceros beetle. The man looked at the 18-year-old teen and spoke. "Hello young pupa, I guess that you want to leave this village now?" The man asked her. He had seen the life of the girl and felt sympathy for her. After all, most no Jinchuriki were treated like the Bijuu they contained, like weapons and monsters. Chimay had always hated civilians and low-tiered ninja like Genin, those didn't know the difference between the water and the glass. He somewhat respected the Jonin and Anbu, seeing as they knew the difference between a scroll and a kunai. "Yes, I am Chimay," the minted-haired girl said with a cheerful smile. The narrowed eyes that was returned made her drop the expression. She changed her face to neutral and nodded her head. "Yes, I am ready to leave this hellhole of a village." The Jinchuriki spoke. "I can help you escape, Fu. Just use my wings. I will channel chakra so that you can fly out. Just ask for a solo mission first," Chimay told her. Fu nodded her head and left the mindscape with a final bye. Real world. When Fu opened her bright orange eyes, she got up and left through the waterfall. After she left, a bug came at her with a message on it. She let the beetle on her fingers and took the message. It was a summoning for her to be at the council meeting. Her eyes narrowed at the paper, knowing that something bad was gonna happen. The council, besides Shibuki, hated her. They made sure to stay away from her as much as possible. Knowing that she had to go anyways, she shined to the cage tower at the center of the village. After getting through the Anbu, she entered the council room. There was a large oval table. On the top, there was the village head, Shibuki. Surrounding him on the left were 20 civilians. On the other side, there were 18 Jonins. Each part counted for power. Shibuki has 1 point, the Jonin 1, and the civilians 1. Looking at the back, she saw someone who caused her fear. Kakuzu, a missing ninja from her own village. The other man she didn't know, but she suspected was a bit weaker or stronger than Kakuzu. Who turned to the council and put up a cheerful facade. "What can I do for the honorable council today?" she questioned. One of the civilians sneered at her and said, "Demon bitch, you are going with Kakuzu-sama." Looking at Kakuzu with fear. Once he said this, Fu's eyes widened in unhidden fear, much to the glee of the civilians as well as some of the Jonin. Fu quickly shined outside the village and grew her wings. Inwardly asking her friend to channel chakra to them, she flew off as fast as she could. She flew through some hand signs and spoke Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu. 5 clones appeared next to her and all flew in different ways. As she was flying, she spread out her senses to see if the 2 people were chasing her. She sensed 2 chakra signatures right behind her and 2 larger chakra signatures to her northern left, 5 minutes away. Just as she was about to head to them, hoping for help, she felt a thread wrap around her legs. Fu struggled against it, but Kakuzu was stronger and she was pulled towards him. Trying to buy some time, she went through the required hand signs and shouted out, "Hidan." Rinpungakure no Jutsu. The powder exploded, creating bright light that blinded the 2 Akatsuki members and leaving Fu to escape. The Jinchuriki jumped towards the tree and flew off towards the chakra signatures. She was once again caught after 3 minutes when the man named Hidan threw his triple-bladed scythe that wrapped around her. She tried to escape, but her efforts were futile. The 2 partners carried the little girl to their nearest base. As they were moving, Fu kept struggling against the scythe. Finally breaking out, she fought them using her tenant's chakra. It didn't cover her in a red cloak since she had control over it. She went through the side then flew in front of them. Deciding that running was incompetent, she decided to fight them until the chakra signatures came. Jimei had informed her that one was a Jinchuriki and she hoped that he or she could help her. MMJMRM the genin spoke as she blew towards the missing nin. From her mouth came a huge web that flew straight at them. It covered them, but Hidan used his scythe to cut through it. The webs being enhanced with Bijuu chakra, the scythe didn't work and was repelled. The webs that touched the two members started to drain their chakra. While they was being drained, Kakuzu unleashed 3 of his masks and let loose 3 jutsu. A strange mask that had a 4-legged body with thin wings let out Fukton. Tatapa. The mask with a demonic beaked bipedal used Suiton. Taki no Tekiniku. The mask of a deformed bipedal used Raiten. John. The collaboration jutsu tore through the net and went straight towards Fu. Futon. Choudama Karasengan. A huge spinning ball of fire came out of nowhere and struck the other jutsu. Naruto and Satsuki. Naruto and Satsuki narrowed their eyes at the giant combo jutsu. Knowing that she wouldn't be able to stop it since she gave out spikes of fear, the two best friends put their hands together. Naruto created a Futon Rasengan and made it grow bigger and bigger until it was the same size as the other jutsu. Satsuki blew a small continuous stream of fire that surrounded the Rasengan. It collided with the wind and created a giant spinning Rasengan that was covered in fire. They both held it with their hands and collided with the dangerous water vortex of lightning. Futon Choudama Karasengan. The vortex of water and ball of fire collided and created a bunch of steam with the lightning being decapitated. Naruto kicked the uncovered Choudama Rasengan towards Kakuzu and Hidan. The five-hearted man and Jashinas dodged the attack and looked at the two arrivals. Hidan looked at his partner and told him, "I'll fight the fucking blonde, you take that black-haired bitch." Satsuki told Naruto, "Take the gray hair, I'll take the other one." Kakuzu vs Satsuki. Satsuki and Kakuzu charged forward toward each other, both shooting their right fists forward. The two fists slammed into each other, but neither shinobi gave an inch. Satsuki then quickly threw a left hook, Kakuzu just moved his head, effectively dodging it. The two then jumped back several feet. Kakuzu could feel how strong Satsuki's chakra was, at least he sensed how strong the amount he put out was. Kakuzu, knowing that this wouldn't end well if he went easy, quickly tore off his Akatsuki coat, revealing his purple shirt and gray pants underneath. "I'll finish this quickly, so I can hurry up and get the Jinchuriki and be able to get bounties." Before Satsuki could even respond, Kakuzu jumped several feet into the air, ripped the mask off his face, revealing his long black hair and stitched up mouth. He then performed a couple hand signs, lightning style. False darkness. Kakuzu's mouth opened, the stitches tearing out and a bolt of lightning shot out of it. It came rushing down at Satsuki at an incredible speed. Satsuki didn't have enough time to dodge, so she had to counter. She quickly formed Rikiri with her right hand, lifted it and quickly shot it forward. She cut right through the lightning bolt, but she could feel the pain of being hit with it the whole way. Satsuki's lightning blade quickly faded and she grabbed her arm in pain. It felt as she had cut through several trees with his bare hand, only without any chakra to help him. While Satsuki held her arm in pain, Kakuzu quickly formed a couple more hand signs, wind style. Pressure damage. Kakuzu's stitched up mouth once again ripped open and he fired a ball of air from his mouth, but he wasn't done just yet. He quickly formed several more hand signs, fire style. Searing migraine. Before his stitches could reattach themselves, he shot out a ball of fire from his mouth, his stitches then sewed up his mouth once again. The fireball flew down towards Satsuki at an incredible speed until it slammed into the ball of air and fused together with it. The wind ball became twice as big, as did the fireball inside it, and it was heading straight at the pain-stricken Satsuki. Satsuki looked up at it, there wasn't too much of a success rate for dodging that, plus she didn't want this guy to set the whole forest on fire. So she quickly formed a Rasengan, raised his left arm and shot it forward, slamming the Rasengan into the double jutsu. Satsuki and Naruto had learned a few jutsu from each other. Rasengan and Chidori were one of them. The Rasengan and the two jutsu clashed for several seconds until the fire and wind jutsu dissolved into nothing. Satsuki took this as her chance, she quickly formed a second Rasengan in his right hand and jumped up at Kakuzu. Unfortunately for Kakuzu, he was caught off guard and Satsuki hit him with the double Rasengan extremely quickly. Double Rasengan. Satsuki grinded the two Rasengans into Kakuzu's chest until she tore two separate holes through his chest, the Rasengan then exploded. This sent Kakuzu flying 20 feet away, he busted through several trees and when he hit the ground, he examined his body. Satsuki had taken out 2 of his 5 hearts already. The holes in Kakuzu's chest quickly reformed, the threads of his body weaving together. Satsuki watched as this happened, she couldn't help but think, what the fuck? His body is made of threads. Kakuzu got to his feet, looked at Satsuki and spoke, "You are heavily skilled, you destroyed 2 of my 5 hearts quite quickly. And now, as recompense, I'll be taking your heart for my own." Satsuki took a step back, her thoughts were all on the enemy of his, this isn't good at all. I need to end this quickly or I'll be biting the dust soon. Satsuki quickly dashed towards Kakuzu, her fire-covered fists at the ready. Satsuki got up close to Kakuzu too fast, he wasn't able to dodge. Satsuki hit him with a right hook, then a left jab, then she slammed her knee into Kakuzu's stomach. Kakuzu then hunched over, the Ravenette quickly brought down her right arm and shot it up, slamming her fist hard into Kakuzu's jaw, giving him a powerful uppercut. Kakuzu was knocked several feet into the air, but he quickly recomposed himself and landed on the ground. Satsuki then charged towards him once again, as Satsuki got closer, Kakuzu formed a few hand signs, Earth style. Iron skin. Satsuki threw a right hook at Kakuzu and it connected with his face, but Kakuzu acted as if he barely felt it. Satsuki looked up at him and noticed his skin had turned red, shit. Kakuzu then threw a heavy right haymaker at Satsuki, it connected dead on with her face. This punch sent Satsuki flying for several feet, she quickly recomposed himself and landed behind a group of trees. Wiping the blood that was trickling from out her bottom lip and down onto his chin, onto his sleeve. She then quickly and silently performed the shadow clone jutsu, creating two more of herself. Two of the three Satsukis began silently making their way around, hoping to get behind Kakuzu. While the third Satsuki came out from behind the trees and charged towards Kakuzu. Kakuzu didn't know what his opponent had done and he didn't care, he was too pissed off to locate any kind of deception or care for it. Kakuzu was extremely angry, so he was going to finish this now, he began forming a dozen or so hand signs. At the same time, one of the three Satsukis was hiding behind a nearby tree, gathering her chakra. Once she had gathered enough, the teen formed a dozen or so hand signs, put both of her hands into a claw shape, crouched down and put them near the ground. Chakra began to appear around her hands, the chakra became more and more violent looking, it began to spin around Satsuki's hands, until finally it turned into lightning. Raiden. No shy. Satsuki quickly formed two lightning blades, stood up and charged forward, toward Kakuzu. Kakuzu noticed the second Satsuki appear from behind a tree and was about to finish his hand signs and perform his most powerful jutsu, but before he could, the third Satsuki appeared behind him and stuck him in a full Nelson. Kakuzu tried to fight her off and it was beginning to work, but Satsuki was only 7 feet away from him. Charging forward towards him with two lightning blades. Shit. Earth-style jutsu is the last kind of jutsu you want to use to defend against lightning-style jutsu. Before Kakuzu could dispel the jutsu, Satsuki got close to him and thanks to the lightning blades, she was able to slam both of her hands through Kakuzu's chest once again, they went straight through him and destroyed Satsuki's own shadow clone in the process. Satsuki had destroyed two more of Kakuzu's hearts, Kakuzu's iron skin jutsu faded, he slammed down onto his knees and passed out. Satsuki pulled her hands out of Kakuzu and stood up straight. Then, Kakuzu caught Satsuki off guard by jumping up at her. He was supposed to be unconscious, but Satsuki reacted quickly by slamming her fist into Kakuzu's face, knocking him back down onto the ground. Satsuki knew that she had to finish this now, if she didn't he might become overwhelmed. She quickly formed an abnormally sized Rasengan in his right hand and slammed it down into Kakuzu's chest, it fluctuated for several seconds before it exploded. Once the light from the explosion faded, Satsuki was standing over Kakuzu's limp non-moving body. She had destroyed Kakuzu's final heart, Satsuki began to pant, she had used a large amount of chakra in a short amount of time, that was never a good thing. She walked towards Fu, knowing that she was a Jinchuriki. When she got there she said hello. And sat down. Fu went through a few hand signs and covered Satsuki in her nets. Satsuki was too tired to dodge, so she got trapped. The webs healed her, much to her astonishment, and she smiled and thanked Fu. Naruto vs Hidan. Hidan began to walk towards the Jinchuriki. Hidan's walk quickly turned into a run. Hidan began to shriek as he came close to Naruto. Hidan jumped into the air and came down at Naruto with his scythe, Naruto quickly rolled to his right, avoiding Hidan's scythe. Hidan quickly swung his scythe to his left, towards Naruto. Naruto jumped back, dodging the triple-bladed scythe once again. Hidan quickly turned towards Naruto and charged towards him again, and when he got close to him, he unleashed a barrage of swings with his scythe. Take this. Hiya. Ha. RGH. Naruto just dodged the slashes one by one, he would move to the left, move to the right, duck down, jump up, anything to avoid being caught by one of those blades. Hidan was getting frustrated at this, just stand still and die. Hidan brought the scythe over his head and slammed it down extremely fast, Naruto had rolled to the side, hoping to avoid being cut with it, and fortunately it only cut through his pant leg, it hadn't hit his skin. Naruto, wanting to end the battle before he actually got nipped by the scythe, quickly threw a right haymaker at Hidan. Hidan was unable to dodge it and was hit with it full force. This sent him flying several feet away, but he quickly regained his composure and landed on his feet. Naruto wasn't done, and neither was Hidan. Hidan charged forward towards Naruto once again, while Naruto put his hands together and performed the shadow clone jutsu. Naruto created 6 more of himself, so there was 7 Narutos in all. As Hidan drew closer, the Narutos began charging at him as well. When Hidan got in the range he needed to use his scythe, he quickly spun around, slamming his scythe into 3 shadow clones, causing them to disappear in a puff of smoke. All 3 of the 4 remaining Narutos jumped upon Hidan, slamming him down onto the ground and pinning him there. As Hidan struggled to break free from the Naruto's grips, he began to curse, "What the hell you little brat. Get the fuck off of me. Fucking get off me." The last Naruto held out his right hand, his palm open, and without the help of another Naruto, he formed a Rasengan. He quickly jumped several feet into the air and came plummeting down at Hidan. As the last Naruto got closer with his technique, Hidan just spoke 2 words, "Well fuck." Naruto was only 3 inches above Hidan, so he shot his right arm forward, slamming his Rasengan through his shadow clones and into Hidan. Naruto had slammed it into his gut, the Rasengan fluctuated for several seconds until it exploded. When the light from the explosion had faded, Naruto was standing over Hidan's body, there was a huge gaping hole in his torso. But there was no blood, no organs, or anything to be seen. This wasn't good, Naruto knew that he needed to kill Hidan quickly, so he got serious. Naruto created a Futon Rasen Shuriken and threw it at the downed immortal. Hidan wouldn't be able to recover if his cells were destroyed, now can he? The wind shuriken hit Hidan and exploded, sending millions upon millions of tiny wind blades that destroyed the cells of the Jashinist. I could make it longer, but I have other things to write. After killing the Akatsuki member, Naruto went to see Fu and saw that both the girls were talking to each other. Fu and Satsuki saw the blonde come to them and looked over at him. When he finally got there, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki asked her, "Did Satsuki fill you in?" Fu nodded her head yes and said she did. "You want to create your own village named Uzumaki, and you want people like Jinchuriki to come there, yeah?" While she was explaining, "You came here, so any other goals?" she asked her fellow Jinchuriki. He nodded and told her that their other goal was to destroy Konoha. Fu had no problems and said, "I will join you guys, after all Jinchuriki have to stick together, right?" she asked with a wink. "Tell them your reason. They are trustworthy," a deep voice echoed in her mind. She sighed and continued, "I also want to make many friends who will accept me. Who knows? Maybe I can be happy." The ex-Taki ninja said. "Alright Fu, Naruto will take you to Uzushiogakure and leave you there for a few days. There should be 3 other people there that will be friends with you, even if they know that you are a Biju container. Just be sure to train. Naruto and I have made a basic schedule, but you should implement it to your style. You should do more, but we don't have your skillset or your ability sheet, so you should make it on your own. We will be back in a few days, we have to go do some things. If you have any questions, Karen should be able to fill you in," Satsuki told her new ally. Fu only nodded, not believing that she would be free and actually would be liked. Naruto grabbed onto Fu's shoulder and teleported to Yuzu. After dropping her off, he teleported back to Satsuki, who he had secretly marked. The 2 crushes then started travel to Tenchi Bridge. Tenchi Bridge, Team Kakashi had just arrived at Tenchi Bridge. Once they got there, Sai used his super beast imitating drawing technique to create small mice that scout out the Tenchi Bridge. After discovering that there are no traps or individuals on the bridge, thus ruling out the possibility of an Akatsuki ambush, Kakashi uses a henge to look like Haruko. Before doing so, he tells Sai, the replacement for Sasuke Satsuki Uchiha, Yamato, replacement for Naruto Uzumaki, and Sakura to be on standby in case something went wrong. Sai has short straight black hair and dark eyes which contrast with his translucent looking pale skin. He carries a small backpack with his brush, scrolls, and ninja ink in it. He wears a short black and grey jacket with red straps as customary of all root members. He also carries a tipless tent on his back. The rest of his outfit consisted of a high-collared midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed, most likely to facilitate the use of his drawing-based techniques. His jacket has a long right and short left sleeves. Yamato has short brown hair and black almond-shaped eyes. He has a changed variation of the standard attire of a Konoha nin, with a flak jacket. The differences between his attire and that of the standard one is that his does not have the Uzushiogakure crest on the shoulders of the sleeves, and the neck of his navy blue shirt is form-fitting and goes up to his chin. He also still retains 2 hip pouches strapped to his lower back instead of just one. In addition to that, he has a Hapuri-style forehead protector that frames his face, similar to that of Tobirama Senju. When Naruto and Satsuki arrived at the bridge in Kusa, Naruto transformed into Kabuto and put on a blue cloak and went towards the bridge. Sasori also came onto the bridge and stood in front of a covered Kabuto. "It's been a long time, Sasori-sama," Naruto said to keep in disguise. He already knew that it was Kakashi. The disguised genin slowly lifted up the hood and much to Kakashi's surprise, he saw Kabuto. "He's Kabuto." The disguised man thought as he flashed back to when he had seen him jumping out the window. It's been 2 years, hasn't it? He questioned, not knowing when they had last met. In the bushes, Sakura's eyes widened in shock as she saw Kabuto, someone who had helped them. It also made her excited since if it was Kabuto, he should know where her precious Asukan and Naruto Baka are. Were you followed? Asked Kakashi in his deep voice. Kabuto faked looking around and looked at Satsuki, signaling her stealthily that she should prepare. He looked back to Sasori and said we're okay. How are you doing? The Jonin asked. I still have the strange sensation from when I remembered who I was after Yujutsu broke. He shook his head in an act and continued I feel heavy-headed. I've got a couple questions for you. Stated Kakashi. I don't have much time, so please keep it short. I risked my life trying to get away from Orochimaru without him finding out. He replied back. Sasori looked up and said I want information about his hideouts and Sasuke and Naruto. Naruto looked to demand, with info from Orochimaru, said, we have multiple hideouts. We move each week to not get discovered. We have hideouts all over the elemental nations. The Konoha asked where is it now? The current one is on a small island in a lake up north. Kabuto replied. By the way he paused and looked back and saw nothing. This was the signal to come forward slowly. He continued about what you asked me to do there was nothing else to saw as he saw a bit of surprise. Uh-oh, I still had a few things to ask him, but I can't let this go on much longer or I'll be discovered. There isn't much of a choice, I have to capture him now. He pulled out a kunai knife. The hidden Konoha saw this and sighed that that's. Naruto knew that Satsuki was about to get there and jumped out of his hood and landed right next to Sasori. In his spot was a disguised Satsuki as Orochimaru. If you hadn't pulled out a kunai knife, I wouldn't have noticed. Naruto spoke. Continued. Kabuto looked to demand, with info from Orochimaru, said, we have multiple hideouts. We move each week to not get discovered. We have hideouts all over the elemental nations. The Konoha asked where is it now? The current one is on a small island in a lake up north. Kabuto replied. By the way he paused and looked back and saw nothing. This was the signal to come forward slowly. He continued about what you asked me to do there was nothing else to saw as he saw a bit of surprise. Uh-oh, I still had a few things to ask him, but I can't let this go on much longer or I'll be discovered. There isn't much of a choice, I have to capture him now. He pulled out a kunai knife. The hidden Konoha saw this and sighed that that's. Naruto knew that Satsuki was about to get there and jumped out of his hood and landed right next to Sasori. In his spot was a disguised Satsuki as Orochimaru. If you hadn't pulled out a kunai knife, I wouldn't have noticed. Kabuto spoke. Orochimaru created a few shadow clones with a bunch of smoke. After doing that, Naruto used his created technique Henkin Suichu, transformation switch, a technique that transformed and switched you with someone. In this case, Satsuki covered the bridge in smoke. After that, they switched places and transformed into who they wanted to at the same time. This could also make your enemy transform, even if they didn't want to. Thanks to that amazing coincidence, he didn't know what I was about to do. He hasn't seen through my disguise yet, but now that Orochimaru is here what should I do? Kabuto and I can't take him alone. The copycat ninja thought. You followed Kabuto? Kakashi asked. Of course, you don't think that I would let my right hand leave without knowing? Orochimaru asked. Should I retreat or call out the others? It's one or the other. The Sharingan-wielding Jonin thought. Kabuto suddenly covered his hands in chakra, held it up, and sliced at Kakashi. Kakashi jumped back quickly, his transformation released. How did he know it was a disguise? Narrowing his eyes he didn't, that was something else. What the hell is going on? He questioned. Orochimaru pulled his hands back and threw it forward Sine to Jashu. Multiple snakes came from his sleeves and wrapped around Kakashi, who substituted with a log. He landed on the ground and grinded his teeth. What's going on here? Kabuto, you were supposed to be an Akatsuki spy. You were supposed to be trapped in Sasori's technique. He said. Orochimaru dispelled that technique a long time ago. Kabuto replied with a smirk. So you switched sides, but pretended to be under Sasori's control. The masked man exclaimed, then, he narrowed his eyes. Is Orochimaru controlling you now? No, not at all. He replied. Orochimaru interrupted them by telling Kakashi now then, why don't you call out the 3 little mice hiding behind you? He saw through all of it. Kakashi raised 2 of his fingers and moved it a bit forward, signaling Sai, Sakura and Yamato to come out from hiding. The 3 saw his signal and nodded, blurring to the bridge and landing in a crouch. Both Naruto and Satsuki look at the 2 new members, so these are our replacements. Pathetic. Both thought. On the outside, they were looking at Kakashi. Haddock and Sakura were amusedly. Have you gotten stronger, Sakura? As strong as Sasuke-kun and Naruto-kun? He asked in Orochimaru's creepy as hell voice. Sakura's face settles into a snarl and lunges at Orochimaru. She couldn't believe that this bastard was talking like he owned her precious Sasuke-kun and Naruto. Kakashi saw her intention and held her back, knowing that the short-tempered girl would destroy the bridge. Kakashi tried to assess the situation. The whole team would not be strong enough to beat Orochimaru. Kabuto was on par with himself. He inwardly released a sigh, knowing that Orochimaru wouldn't let them escape. He, however, didn't expect Kabuto to suddenly say we won't kill you for now Konoha isn't our enemy, Akatsuki is. You also want to destroy Akatsuki. We'll let you go for now. After saying this, both Orochimaru and Kabuto turned around and started to walk away, leaving a frozen team behind them. Well, except for Sai, who quickly and discreetly created an ink clone. The real one followed Orochimaru and Kabuto without the others seeing, while the clone stayed with the team. At least, that's what he thought. Kakashi saw Sai creating a clone and narrowed his eyes. Tsunade-sama had told him that Sai was a root, so he was probably trying to get Satsuki and Naruto to Danzo so they could become weapons. Kakashi knew that Sasuke was, in reality, Satsuki. He and Naruto had found out during the wave mission. Sakura had been unconscious so she didn't know. When Satsuki had woken, she told them not to tell anyone. Kakashi wasn't able to deny the girl who didn't want to be, as she said, a baby breeding factory. Naruto also agreed. Kakashi created a cage bunshin under the bridge, following Sai. But Sai, Orochimaru, and Kabuto. Sai had followed Orochimaru and Kabuto into a forest. After getting a bit away from the rest of the Konoha team, both shinobi paused in their steps. Get out from hiding. Orochimaru spoke. Sai left the place he was hiding in and jumped down. He, however, didn't expect a sword going through his chest. The rude Anbu froze there and looked at Orochimaru. 2 seconds later, he faded until there was only black ink left. The real Sai came from the ground and told him I work for Danzo-sama, I am not your enemy. With a bullshit smile there is something I need to discuss with you. Naruto tried to remember this Danzo until 5 seconds later he remembered. Danzo, that senile old relic, he's still breathing, is he? So what do you want to discuss? He asked the black-haired ninja. Still having his bullshit smile, he said I have a message from Danzo-sama for you, Orochimaru-sama. Well, let's hear it. Orochimaru demands. Ever since your plan to destroy Konoha failed, Danzo-sama has been longing to be in contact with you. Sai tells him with an emotionless face. On the sidelines, Kakashi was still watching Sai. He widened his eyes as he realized Tsunade-sama was right. He created a shadow clone with barely any chakra and dispelled it, sending knowledge back to Kakashi. At Tenchi Bridge, Kakashi got the information from the clone and quickly stabbed the clone in front of him. Sai turned into pale then into black ink. He told them of what he learned from his clone and had them go towards where his clone was. Back with Sai that is all Danzo-sama told me to say. He spoke emotionlessly. Keeping up his acting, Orochimaru replies I admit, that is interesting. He pauses for a bit so how much of what you told me should I believe? He asked the replacement. Sai reached for his back and pulled out a scroll. Kabuto jumped from behind him and tackled his replacement to the ground. What's the big idea? She demanded. Now, that boy is about to join our ranks from today on. Orochimaru lied. Can we trust him? Kabuto played along. Sai interrupted them by requesting them to please look at that letter. It's from Danzo-sama to you. Gesturing towards the envelope that he had dropped when Kabuto tackled him. Orochimaru frowned and grabbed the envelope. Opening it he read Orochimaru, from now onwards, this boy will be working under you. So this Danzo wants me and Satsuki-chan. If Orochimaru's memories are correct, Danzo wants a weapon or to kill us. Let's take him. I need to deliver a message to Kakashi so we can infiltrate Konoha with no problem later. Orochimaru figured out instantly. Kabuto, let him go. We're bringing him with us. Orochimaru stated. Kabuto looked at him confused but complied nonetheless. Are you ready to go, Sai, or whatever you're called? He asked with a smirk on his face. The team nodded and moved away, clone Kakashi following them, using the seal he planted on him at the hot springs. The clone created a minor cage bunshin and dispelled it, sending info back to the real one, who informed the others. The rest of Team 7 quickly catch up to Kakashi's clone, which disrupts and continue following Orochimaru. Kabuto began before being interrupted by Orochimaru. I know. We're being followed. Are we simply being followed? Or is this a trap? He questioned out loud. What should we do? Kabuto questioned to Orochimaru, one of his hands shifting towards his holster, alarming Sai who got on guard. One way or the other, we're gonna need a corpse. Orochimaru said. Hibi Bunshin no Jutsu. He spoke quietly as he created a fake corpse of Sai. They continued traveling forth towards the base, knowing that Kakashi would deduce that it was a fake, but they needed to make sure Sai wasn't suspicious. At Orochimaru's previous hideout, Orochimaru, Sai, and Kabuto finally arrive at the hideout. When they reached the bottom, Kabuto quickly attacked Sai and knocked him out. He then took him to a room and tied him up, leaving a bingo book there. After doing that, he left the room and released the transformation, revealing the beautiful Ravenette. She then went to find her crush, finding him in another room inside the orange hideout. What's the plan, Naruto-kun? She questioned the blonde. The plan is, Naruto replies to her as he tells her the plan. Team 7 arrived at the hideout and went inside. Kakashi used the seal he had on site to find the room he was in. After finding it, Yamato uses his wood release hand tool manipulation to create a key from his fingers and opens the door. "Thought we'd find you here," Yamato states as he looks at Sai using his bullshit smile. "Nothing less from the Hokage's personal Anbus and apprentice. I see the corpse did not fool you one bit," he said with the smile still on. Kakashi narrowed his visible eye and asked, "What do you mean by that?" He was struggling not to kill the brat, but he had to follow Tsunade-sama's orders. "Kakashi, if Sai is a threat to either Naruto-kun or Sasuke, kill him. He isn't as important as them," she had told the Jonin. When he did not answer, Sakura, in an act of brashness, grabbed him and lifted him up. "Why the hell did you turn on us, traitor?" She growled at the bastard who was keeping her away from Sasuke-kun. Still having that smile on his face, "You know, the bullshit smile," he replied, "you really shouldn't be so noisy, or things will become even more difficult." Sakura let him go, but still questioned him. "Danzo's orders, right? He is planning something involving Orochimaru, isn't he? And you were chosen to be their liaison. What are they up to?" She asked the last bit with a snarl. Yamato interrupted her with a speculation of his own. "He wants to team up with Orochimaru to try a new crush the leaf plan, doesn't he?" "No, he wants to bring Naruto-san and Sasuke-san back to the village for its benefit." He lied with practiced ease. Unfortunately for him, Kakashi saw through his lie and told him so, knowing that Danzo would do something much colder and harsher than that. "Now that you've discovered me here, my mission is a failure. I can't finish you all by myself. Since you've figured out this much, there's no point in trying to hide the truth." Giving them a startling stare, he continued, "It's just as you've said, we're trying to destroy the current Konoha." "What?" Sakura growled. "I was taken in by Orochimaru with the understanding that I would help him conspire against Konoha. That was the true mission assigned to me. I'm also working as a spy, sending information about Orochimaru back to Danzo-sama." Kakashi pulled a kunai at his throat and told him to keep talking and don't leave anything out. "So you're supposed to be in an alliance with Orochimaru while spying on him behind his back?" Sakura summarized. "No duh, I D10T, that's what he said." Seeing the pale boy nod, she continued what she was saying. "That's so dangerous. The moment Konoha is destroyed, Orochimaru will inevitably betray us. It's a preventive way to keep us the upper hand." He told them. "I see, Danzo wants Konoha to be his and he's making it happen alone," Kakashi voiced in his mind. Sai continues, "The information I write on my scrolls turn into small animals like mice and birds. That's how I can leak information without compromising my position. That's why I was chosen for that mission." He told them. "If Konoha is thrown into chaos, lots of innocent people will die." Sakura screeches out, thinking about all the deaths that were caused by the Otosuna invasion from 3.5 years ago. "If you don't like it, why are you a trained assassin, a person who kills innocents?" "Sai to Yamato, and I know you're from Root Anbu. We also know that Danzo had you undergo special training to help you kill your emotions," Kakashi told him. Sakura looked at him confused. "Special training?" Kakashi nodded and continued, "In order to seal away all emotions, you underwent the vile training the hidden village of the Bloody Mist once used." "The hidden village of the Bloody Mist? Wasn't that Zabuza's?" asked the band Sakura once again, thinking back to what Kakashi and Zabuza had told them back then. "A long time ago, the Hidden Mist Village was called the Bloody Mist Village, and you had to overcome a final ultimate trial in order to become a ninja. A battle to the death among the students." After tying Sai up with wood and about to create a Moku Bunshin, they were about to leave when he interrupted them. Sai continued on. "Orochimaru is always with Sasuke-kun and probably with Naruto-kun as well." They realized the implications of that. To get to the two, they would have to fight Orochimaru. They weren't strong enough to do that. "Well, that doesn't matter. I love Sasuke-kun and Naruto is my teammate and friend. We'll rescue them for sure. We are all teammates, Team 7, our bond." Sakura exclaimed while her inner exclaimed cha. "Once we rescue them, Sasuke will end up marrying us and we'll be Mrs. Uchiha." I just died a little writing that. I also threw up. Sai looked at the girl's determination and sighed, thinking about what the pink bi girl said, a bond. "What about Orochimaru?" he asked her. "I don't care about him, our bond will destroy him." She told him, idealistically, not realistically. Kakashi sighed at the foolishness of the notion. "A bond might give you determination that would help you train to be strong, but the bond itself will never have enough physical will to hurt anyway, let alone Orochimaru. Ah well, let her live her childhood. Ignorance is bliss." Whoever said those words probably meant Sakura. Naruto was, while acting like a baka, he was pretty serious. Satsuki was the same. "Seeing your entire family massacred by your brother 259,200 times would do that to you." Satsuki accepted the truth, but had to deal with the emotions for 2 years before leaving it. Sakura was the only naive one on this team. Just as Yamato was about to create a Moku Bunshin when a bunch of kunai sailed to them from the door. They looked up and saw Kabuto as the culprit. The three dodged the kunai by jumping to the side. Kabuto jumped in front of Sai as though he was protecting him. Kakashi looks at the man and narrows his eye. He quickly created two cage bunshin on top of the Odonin. Kabuto sensed the clones and dodged to the side, thrusting kunai through each of their throat. He needed to stay for 20 more seconds to let Naruto complete the plan and then be captured. They're rather persistent. Sakura tells him. Like you aren't the same when chasing my male counterpart bitch. Satsuki thought. Sai, I seen you've been taken prisoner. Kabuto told Sai in amusement. 10 seconds. Mokuton. Binding trees. Multiple wooden things came from the floor of the room and tried to bind Kabuto. He dodged that, only to have to dodge Sakura's punch. He quickly unbid Sai, knowing he was going to betray them. When Kakashi was about to attack, he was surprised when Sai quickly disabled Kabuto and put him on the wall. After tying him up using wood ropes, they demanded from him the location of Orochimaru, Sasuke, and Naruto. Kabuto obliged and told them the riddle that was supposed to be told to them by now. He's probably finished with his training and has gone back to his room in the inner area. They were surprised by how fast he obliged as well as the info. They turned to Sai when he started to speak. It's true that Sasuke left to train with Orochimaru. I don't think he is lying. However, inner area doesn't tell us much. Kabuto looked up and lied to their faces, even I don't know where the room is. This place has space and rooms carved out everywhere. There are multiple inner chambers. Then we'll just search all of them, Shanaro. Sakura screeched. They all just nodded, knowing that that was all Kabuto was telling. They all left the room to search for their teammate. When they closed the room, Kabuto disrupted and spoke, indicating it was a cage bunshin, sending information back to Satsuki. All 4 members of Team 7 were running down the hallways of the chamber. Making sure that no one was around, they continued until coming to a split path. Kakashi was not a sensor by any means. This didn't mean that he could not sense chakra. Orochimaru's chakra was on the right side, so he commanded his subordinates to follow him as he went to the direction. Sasuke-kun, I will find you. I love you. Thought the pink bit teen delusionally. Naruto-kun, Satsuki-chan, I will get you back. You are all the family I have left. A certain copy Nin promised. They came across a door while they were running and quickly opened it, only to see a green bed. Knowing this wasn't it, they continued to run forward. They kept coming across multiple doors, but they weren't in any. Sasuke-kun, where are you? Sakura thought as she opened another door. They ran through multiple forks, but Kakashi guided them until they heard a big explosion. Orochimaru is in a room with Naruto and Satsuki. The Orochimaru is a clone, of course. As the Konoha team got closer, they activated the next part of their plan. Attract the Konoha team's attention. Naruto nodded at Satsuki and they both created a clone. Both jumped into the air and exploded, disintegrating the roof. They got on the top part and waited. Once they had heard the sound, they had all headed off towards it. Yamato, however, held the other 2 back. Why did you hold us back, Tenzo? Kakashi questioned him, using a name from the past. Sakura was confused on the Tenzo, but let it pass. Don't call me that now, the reason for Sai being here, I finally figured it out. He told them seriously. The other 2 were surprised at this, and he continued. Yamato pulled out a bingo book and said I found this in Sai's backpack earlier. I didn't get a chance to study it until earlier. He came here to assassinate Sasuke and Naruto. He told them. Sakura widened her eyes, but Kakashi seemed calm. I see, I had thought that was the case. Kakashi muttered aloud. Tsunade's apprentice had enough of this and started to run off the same direction as Sai. She reached a hole with light outside and went through. She rushed right for Sai until she heard a whisper. Sakura. That voice. She thought as she looked towards the place where the sound came from with wide eyes. In the place was her blonde friend. More important was what, or who, was next to him. Sasuke stood right next to him. Her grip on Sai's collar faltered and her hand slowly went down. She turned her whole body to face them. Yamato and Kakashi wondered what was surprising her and ran towards her. They got there and saw Naruto and Sasuke as well. Sasuke-kun. She whispers upon seeing him with tears in her eyes. Naruto too. She says as her eyes drift from her crush to the handsome blonde next to him. Upon seeing Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke give him a small smile and say hello Kakashi-sensei. Using their insult on Kakashi's name. Their eyes drift to the other 3 there and Sasuke says so you're here too? He questions. Kakashi steps forward but suddenly stops as there is a hand on his neck. A sword is at his neck. Naruto leans forward and says, I have a message for you Kakashi. I don't trust Sakura to not spill and I don't know who the other 2 are. I'll give you the message as we spar. We can't have Orochimaru know. Kakashi knows that his student would never hurt him since they were like brothers, so he nodded and they started to spar. As Satsuki watched the 2 fight she could still remember Naruto's plan in her head. Satsuki's flashback. The plan is very simple. When the others arrive, they will find Sai. They will interrogate him and he will try to lie. They will see through it and will have to say the truth. After telling them, they will tie him using Mokuton. They will be leaving the room, but you have to intervene. They will attack you, but you need to buy me 20 seconds since they are already here. After you attack them, free Sai. He will turn traitor and help them capture you. They will interrogate you about our location, so be truthful, but cryptic. After that, you should come back without their notice. We will blow a room once they are near. After they arrive to where we are, I will deliver a message to Kakashi. I will fight him, though not at full power. The others will fight, so you should also fight. Make sure to make them use all they can. We need to know how powerful they are. I will give Kakashi the message and spar. A clone of mine will appear as Orochimaru and we will leave. Naruto told her. Satsuki was amazed by how thought out the plan was. He knew everything that would happen and it went with his plans exactly. Satsuki nodded and they got started on their role. Okay Naruto-kun, but I want Sakura to myself. Satsuki had called him Naruto-kun ever since she discovered her feelings. She told him with an evil smile that Naruto didn't see. She wanted to hurt that bitch who hit her Naruto back in Konoha. Satsuki's flashback end. Kakashi jumped back and got into a fighting stance. Naruto did the same as his sensei and ran at the other with a hand put in front. They clashed in midair. The others were surprised that they started to fight, so they went to help him, but an invisible air blade appeared in front of them and cut through the floor. As the dust settled down, they saw Sasuke to be the one who did it. Don't interfere. He said in a commanding voice. Sai and Yamato didn't want to listen, so they both charged at him. The Uchiha dodged them and kicked them to the side. He then appeared in front of Sakura and punched her in the gut. After the punch, she was hit in the face. Sakura flew through the air until she hit the walls that got spider cracks. Is that the best you can do? Someone so weak has no business even dreaming of standing besides me. Sasuke told Sakura. Sakura groaned at the pain and looked up at what her crush said. This can't be Sasuke-kun, right? Orochimaru must be controlling him somehow. I will free him. Sakura thought to herself. Satsuki vs Yamato, Sai, and Sakura. From now on Satsuki will be killed that unless she is being said in a sentence. Sakura is tortured, not really. Sakura charged at Satsuki with Yamato and Sai coming at her from the left and right. Knowing not to show too much that she learned, she decided to use Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, and Ninjutsu only. Satsuki smirked and grabbed Yamato's longer arm and spun him at Sai. Sakura was just about to hit, but Satsuki ducked under the punch that set her flying. Using Shadow of the Dancing Leaf to get behind her. Grabbing onto her shirt, the Uchiha era spun to kick Sakura's stomach. Sakura blocked it, but was unprepared for the backhand to her flat chest. Using the memento to get higher than the Konoha shinobi, Satsuki spun and did a heel drop on Sakura's stomach, releasing some chakra to damage her more. As Sakura was dropped to the floor, Yamato once again flew towards Satsuki. Going through the hand seals, he threw his hand out. Out of them came wood that went for Satsuki. The Ravenet dodged through the trees and unsheathed her sword just in time to block the Tanto slashed at her by Sai. Luring behind Sai, Satsuki kicks his back. She waits for them to recover while taunting them. This is the best two Anbus and the Hokage's apprentice can do. Pathetic. She smirked at the cry of rage from Sakura and backflipped away from her position, only to see the ground cracking. So, the bitch isn't as useless as before. Thinking back to all their missions. The Kunoichi jumped back as Sakura started to punch at her again and again, knowing not to be hit by that. A Tombo lion jumped at her from behind and tried to bite her, but bit into Sakura who Satsuki had substituted with. Sakura was let go and held her bleeding shoulder. I have to get serious. Hokage-sama said to get them back unharmed, but we don't have a choice. Yamato thought to himself as he observed the other two try to fight Satsuki. Yamato shined behind Satsuki and punched her, sending her through the air. Satsuki looked down, only to see the wood user coming at her. Cursing herself for upping the resistance seal yesterday, she created a cage bunshin that threw her downwards. Gathering lightning in her hand, the Uchiha heiress thrusts it down, sending multiple senbons made of lightning. After Sakura had healed the bite, she had created a bunshin, thinking that it would fool Satsuki. Satsuki saw through it and decided to humiliate the bitch. Punching the bunshin, it popped out and a fist came to the back of her head. It hit head-on and went through the head, sending crimson liquid everywhere. Sakura looked at it, the blood in fear. Screaming to the sky, she fainted upon seeing her hand covered in her crush's blood. Yamato and Sai looked at Sakura in concern and looked at Satsuki, who was standing behind Sakura, who shrugged. All she did was cast the Majin Narakumi no Jutsu. Staring at her eyes was a mistake that they had made. The two suddenly fainted 2 seconds later. Satsuki smirked and shook her head at their weakness to Jinjutsu, they didn't even know it was one. Slowly, her eyes traveled to the downed Sakura and an evil grin appeared on her face. The Uchiha heiress dispelled the Jinjutsu letting Sakura wake. The pink-haired shinobi looked at Satsuki and kicked her away. Satsuki suddenly smirks at the Kunoichi and the Sharingan swirls, hypnotizing her. Sakura looked around and saw Sasuke-kun and Naruto coming right at her. Suddenly, Sasuke is covered in a poof of smoke, revealing a beautiful woman. "Sasuke-kun, why are you using that perverted jutsu Naruto made?" she screeched. Satsuki and Naruto look at her in white and ignores her. She turns back to Naruto and wraps her hands around his neck. Both start to lean towards each other and their lips met. Sakura watched in horror as she saw Naruto kissing her crush. "Nuo!" she screams to the world, fainting. When their lips met, they both felt as though they were in heaven. They continued to hold each other tighter as their tongues started to battle against one another for dominance. Continued. Sakura looked around and saw Sasuke-kun and Naruto coming right at her. Suddenly, Sasuke is covered in a poof of smoke, revealing a beautiful woman. "Sasuke-kun, why are you using that perverted jutsu Naruto made?" she screeched. Satsuki and Naruto look at her in white and ignores her. She turns back to Naruto and wraps her hands around his neck. Both start to lean towards each other and their lips met. Sakura watched in horror as she saw Naruto kissing her crush. "Nuo!" she screams to the world, fainting. When their lips met, they both felt as though they were in heaven. They continued to hold each other tighter as their tongues started to battle against one another for dominance in the Genjutsu. Naruto vs Kakashi. Kakashi jumped back and got into a fighting stance. Naruto did the same as his sensei and ran at the other with a hand put in front. They clashed in mid-air with their arms trying to dominate one another. "Me and Satsuki need to stay here so we can kill Orochimaru," Naruto whispered to his teacher. He knew he could speak about Satsuki with his sensei since he already knew. "So you were going to use this opportunity to kill Orochimaru?" Kakashi asked him. He jumped back from his student and opened his Sharingan eye. "Yes, this is the best opportunity and we can also get information about Akatsuki," Naruto told him. "Alright, is that all you need to tell me?" the silver-haired man asked. "Yeah, but don't tell anyone, it might be leaked to Orochimaru, okay?" he asked his teacher who nodded. That sounded reasonable and right. Since they were done talking, they started a spar to not alert Orochimaru. Naruto ran forward to punch Kakashi in the face, but the man ducked right under it and kicked Naruto upward. The silver-haired ninja went through a few hand signs and yelled out Kaiten. "Kankakik no Jutsu." Naruto created a cage bunshin that threw him higher than the flames could reach. The clone dispersed while the original created a Rasengan. He created another clone that threw him towards Kakashi. Kakashi backflipped out of there, but he didn't expect a weak Rasengan to the back. He looked behind him to see a grinning Naruto. He looked up and saw the Naruto disperse. "Lesson 1 to Jutsu," Kakashi told Naruto. "No book this time?" he asked his teacher. Kakashi shook his head and ran towards Naruto. Naruto grabbed a kunai and threw it at Kakashi. Kakashi jumped over the kunai, but it exploded below him, damaging him. Naruto jumped towards Kakashi, who also came towards him. Naruto tried to sidekick him, but Kakashi blocked it. Twisting himself so that he could punch Kakashi in the stomach, Naruto launched his chakra-coated fist in there. The Konoha shinobi let go of his student and staggered backwards. Now, Naruto-kun, Satsuki-chan, it's time to go," a creepy voice said from above. All three looked above them to see Orochimaru. Satsuki shined there, but Naruto exploded, leaving Orochimaru and Satsuki free to escape. After the smoke calmed down, Kakashi tried to sense his students, but wasn't able to. He sighed and looked over towards the others. Seeing that they were still in that Genjutsu, he released Sai and Yamato, but had a clone take Sakura back, remembering that Naruto told him that Satsuki would terrify her. Naruto and Satsuki. After having left the base, Naruto and Satsuki had Hiraition back to Yuzu. When they had arrived back here, they had intentions to get Fu so she could help them locate one more Jinchuriki. Finally arriving at Fu's location, they saw that she was talking to Karen. Fu looked up to see the two looking at them and instantly started to apologize. "Hey, Naruto-san, Satsuki-san, sorry that we aren't training like you asked, but we were a bit tired you see." She ranted fast. Naruto sighed, instantly figuring it out that she got it from the villagers' treatment look Fu. She flinched, thinking they were gonna hurt her or yell at her. "It's okay to rest, you don't have to train every minute of every day. Now where are Sujetsu and Jugo?" he told her, but questioned at the end. Karen came up to them and, using her sensory abilities, told them, Sujetsu is out in the sea, swimming, and Jugo is next to him, on land. The three walked towards where the other males were, but Fu stayed back. They noticed her and motioned for her to come. After arriving at the area, they saw that Sujetsu was swimming while Jugo was in a meditating position, many animals like seagulls and dolphins around or near him. The animals ran off after sensing other people coming while the two teens noticed their teammates coming there. "Hey guys, what's up?" Sujetsu asked casually, getting out of the water and shifting back to human form. "Hello Naruto, Satsuki." Jugo greeted them with a smile. Satsuki stepped up and, with a smirk, told them, "We're going to start your training now." They all nodded, and the 4 new members of Uzushiogakure followed the clan heir and heiress. After walking to the other side of Uzushiogakure, they arrived at a grassy training ground of Yuzu. Many people didn't know how Fuinjutsu worked, but the Uzumakis were very creative and tried to do many things with them. When Hashirama had come and they saw his ability Mokuton, they asked to store some of his chakra so they could grow vegetation. They imported many shipments of plants and trees and other similar things, and used the chakra to grow them, and they grew fast, becoming lush and ripe and fully grown in a week. They used a multiplier seal so that the chakra was limitless, so they were always good. What are we going to do? Karen asked her cousin, an obvious crush. It was pretty easy to read his emotions using her unique sensory abilities. The same was true for Satsuki, which she learned after the spike of jealousy. You 4 are going to have a 1v1 and show all of your skills, so we know what to train you in. The blonde Uzumaki replied to his aunt's daughter. They nodded while Satsuki paired them up, Fu vs Sujetsu and Karen vs Jugo. Remember, show everything you can do. Don't injure or hurt each other. Satsuki told them. They nodded and stepped back as Fu and Sujetsu got ready. Sui vs Fu. Fu got in a stance that Jime had taught her. Her right hand horizontally parallel to her stomach with her left hand next to her face, vertically. The legs were bent at a certain angle, allowing her to do multiple tasks easily. Sujetsu took his sword off his back and got into the stance he was taught by his brother. Fu went toward Sujetsu as fast as she could and swept at his legs. He jumped to avoid this and brought down his decapitating carving knife onto Fu. Knowing that she couldn't dodge the huge blade, Fu took out a kunai and reinforced it with chakra. The loud sound of metal clashing echoed throughout the training ground. Both shinobi tried to gain the upper hand, but at the end, Fu won the struggle and threw the purple-eyed swordsman back. Sujetsu flew back, but was able to flip into position. Nice Fu. He complimented the mint-haired teen. Fu blushed at one of the few compliments she received, but quickly composed herself. Sujetsu put his sword back, knowing that the others already knew his capabilities as a swordsman, and went through the hand seals required for Mizubunshin no Jutsu. Water started to take shape until it formed into a second Sujetsu. Both ran towards Fu and kicked her, but she backflipped away, hitting Clone's chin and sending him upwards. She quickly jumped to the side to avoid the kick sent at her, and then blurred away, appearing high above him. Hockey whirlwind. She screamed as she flew down towards Sujetsu with her arms stuck out. A whirlwind-like force surrounded her while she came down. Sujetsu jumped away from Fu's target, which was the ground. When the orange-eyed woman hit the ground, a small crater formed, a foot wide and a half-foot deep. When Fu got out the crater, the Hazuki attacked her. They both threw punches and kicks, both getting damaged. After their little Taijutsu clash, they both backflipped away from each other. They were about to attack each other once again, but the Kyuubi Jinchuriki interrupted them. Their assessment. Alright you two, we've seen enough to know what you both need. He told them. They both nodded and headed towards their comrades' friends. Alright, you both have good Taijutsu, but you two are far too slow and weak. We're gonna put resistance seal on you. Satsuki told them, her Sharingan activated. They both nodded, knowing that they would be criticized. Besides, this would help them better themselves. They then looked towards Naruto, waiting for his own assessment. They were confused when he handed them 2 papers. They took them and looked at him confused. Naruto, seeing their looks, explained, those are chakra papers. Channel chakra into them so we can find your affinity. You two don't have a high jutsu repertoire, so you are going to get jutsu. The two nodded and channeled chakra into their hands, the result shocking the two. Sujetsu's paper split into 2 separate papers, then got wet. Sujetsu was shocked since he never knew that he had an affinity for wind. Well Sujetsu, seems you have the same affinities as me. I'll teach you some wind techniques. Fu's paper also split up, but instead of wettening, they burned up. Fu, you have fire and wind, a good combination just like Sujetsu's. Both of you can combine jutsus to make them stronger. Fu looked up with a grin on her face, knowing how rare it was to have 2 elements. Next is Jinjutsu. Fu, I know you can't do it since you're a Jinchuriki, but what about you Sujetsu? Satsuki asked them, revealing that Fu was a Jinchuriki. The others didn't care about that, not having anything against the Bijuu at all. Nah, I need to learn other things that are more useful for me. He said, not undermining Jinjutsu, but thinking it was less important than ninjutsu. Alright. Now, Karen, Jugo, you two will spar with Suki, and Naruto told them, seeing as them fighting each other wouldn't work. Satsuki had seen the same and agreed with a nod, which was replicated by the Redeeds. Jugo went with Naruto so he could use full power, while Karen went with Satsuki. Satsuki vs Karen. Satsuki got into her clan's Taijutsu stance, the Interceptor Fist. Karen got into the Uzukin, a style taught to her by her mother. Satsuki smirked and used her hand to gesture comment to Karen. The Redeed charged at the teen, punching her at the gut. Satsuki nearly got hit since she had gotten to level 40 on her resistance. She got to 13 on first year, 25 on second, 38 on third, and she increased it bit by bit during the series until 40 now. Same with Naruto. If you're wondering how hard it is to move like this, think of having 4,000 pounds on you and trying to move. One level equals 100 pounds. Now know that they could only handle 1,300 after 1 year. Don't care if it seems too much, they should be able to resist that much weight. She activated her Sharingan with intentions to use the advantage of having one of the best Kekai Genkais ever. After activating the red and black eyes, she blurred in front of the Uzumaki, punching her in the face, forcing her to slide backwards. Eren suddenly had golden chains that came from her back, flying straight towards the Uchiha. Satsuki was able to dodge every one of them, jumping back from each of the chains coming at her. Naruto's was much faster than Karen's chains, so it was pretty damn easy. Iridid used a distraction from her chains to appear behind the clan heiress and aim a sweep to her legs. Satsuki sensed the move and backflipped over her, kicking her in the back of her head when Karen stood. The crimson-eyed girl almost crashed into the floor, but her reflexes allowed her to roll away. She quickly jumped to her feet and back, giving her some distance from the onyx-eyed teen. "Is that all you got?" taunted Satsuki pridefully, angering Karen. She went through many hand seals and snarled out, "Suiton. Sir Udan." A torrent of water came from the nearby ocean. It slowly transformed into the face of a dragon, with huge open mouth and yellow glowing eyes. The attack headed towards her comrade, like its creator commanded. Satsuki saw the attack coming at her and rolled her eyes. That was a weak attack compared to her and Naruto. She went through the required hand seals and blew out a stream of white fire. The flames took a form of a dragon and clashed with the water dragon. "Kaiten. Karyudan," she spoke in her mind. Steam rose from the clash, obscuring the Uzumaki's and Uchiha's view of each other. Karen didn't need her vision, however, thanks to her unique sensory abilities. Karen tried to think of a plan, knowing that Satsuki wouldn't attack her. The crimson-eyed girl's eyes brightened and she went through hand seals, allowing her to perform the jutsu silently. Satsuki saw the smoke dissipating but didn't distinguish Karen herself. Satsuki focused her chakra to form a semi-sphere around her, only to send it flying in all directions, trying to feel Karen. The prideful girl smirked and jumped up just as a pair of hands came through the ground. "Kaiten. Msenka no Jutsu," the Ravenet whispered mentally. "Doten. Shinji Zanshu," whispered the glass-wielding teen. She looked up, only to see multiple small ball of fire coming down at her, and went underground once again. Eren came out from another place, jumping away as Satsuki's sword almost impaled her. The adamantine chain wielder growled at Satsuki and slapped her hand on the ground. A rock shaped like a cone came up and was sent flying towards Satsuki at high speeds. "Doten. Dirixum," Karen announced her jutsu. The lightning and fire-using girl attacked the sharp rock using Karasu that she infused with lightning to slice through it like a hot knife through butter. Then, the Ravenet rushed at her, putting her hands in a cross position with her ring and index fingers. "Cage Bunshin." Sensing the teen behind her, Karen jumped up and went through the required hand seals. "Suiton." Miserapa the Redeed launched a large jet of water from her mouth through her hand. The clone and original went through some seals and jumped at the jet of water. Once they got near it, they released black lightning from their hands. Raiden. Jabashi. The streams of lightning connected to water and traveled to the source in an instant, shocking Karen. She fell through the sky and into the floor. While falling, her form turned to earth and started to separate. Satsuki nodded to her clone and started to walk close to it. It got into a stance, having up a single hand seal. When the Uchiha got close enough, she threw her hands at the clone's back, making it go poof. Once it cleared, in its place was Karen, on her knees, having a paralysis seal on her. "How?" Karen questioned to Satsuki. Her reply was a smirk. "Simple, I sensed that the one that came up didn't have as much chakra as it should. Doten. Shinji Zanshu doesn't take that much chakra, so it was a clone. I destroyed the clone and had my clone sense you. It substituted with you right before it was hit with the paralysis seal, so it was on you. I had it substitute at the last second so you couldn't escape." Satsuki took the paralysis seal off her and they both went to the others, a repair seal repairing the training ground they messed up. The Uchiha heiress once again spoke, this time to give her assessment. "You have good taijutsu, but Naruto has one that you can use that is better. You are his cousin so you should be allowed to use it. You, like the others, will have resistance seals on you. In Jinjutsu, you were able to dispel a few of the ones I placed on you, which I'm sure has to do with your sensing that Naruto told me you have." She paused, letting Karen confirm with a nod. "Your ninjutsu is good, they have good quality, but you could have more. Your adamantines aren't very fast, so you should train to make them faster. You should also train to change their shape, since they are made of your chakra, you should be able to manipulate its shape. You should also learn Fuinjutsu, seeing as you're in Uzumaki." She finished her assessment. Karen agreed with the assessment, knowing it was true. You couldn't argue with your chance of getting stronger, after all. Naruto vs Jugo. Naruto and Jugo walked to an area that was farther from where his crush and cousin were. They both got into position, ready to attack their opponent. Naruto got into his learned bloody whirlpool dance, while Jugo just stayed there, gathering energy around him, trying to control it. The nature lover held out his right hand, transforming it into an axe. Naruto saw this and grabbed Benihim from his sheath and flew towards Jugo. Said teen saw the attack and intercepted the sword slash with his axe, creating sound of metal clashing against rock. The two teammates tried to overpower each other, but in the end, Naruto won the clash. Jugo was pushed back by the blonde, but he jumped back to not take any damage. The orange-haired youth transformed the axe back to a hand. He pulled out a kunai and shuriken, charged them with his chakra, making it sharp, and threw it at Naruto. The wind-charged shuriken and kunai were multiplied 100-fold when Jugo shouted out Cage Shuriken and Kunai Bunshin. The Uzumaki heir looked at the barrage of kunai and shuriken and let out a smirk, sure to stop them near the attacker. Futon. Tatapa. The large gust of wind slammed against the weapons, stopping them in their tracks, near the thrower. Naruto ran towards Jugo at full speed, but right as he was about to reach him, he disappeared. The blonde reappeared behind the unstable Senjutsu user, kicking him in the back, sending him flying forward. Naruto reappeared under Jugo and kicked him upwards. The orange-haired boy spun around in mid-air and swung his hands downwards. The attack met the blonde shinobi, only for him to go poof. Jugo tried to look below for Naruto, forgetting to look up. Triple Uzumaki barrage. Naruto shouted, right as 3-foot connected to orange-eyed boy. The nature-loving boy was sent down at high speeds and crashed into the ground. The former Konoha nin landed on the ground and dismissed his clones, waiting for his opponent to get up. Jugo got out of the human-shaped hole and grabbed his head, feeling dizzy. Enough Jugo, I've seen enough. Here's my assessment. Naruto started out in a professional voice. From what I've seen, you have no taijutsu style. Don't worry about that since I have a taijutsu scroll you can learn from. It's called the Iron Fist. It uses strength over speed, which you have plenty of. You can also use your transformations to add to it. You'll still have speed, but more strength. Naruto explained while opening a seal in his hands, taking out the aforementioned scroll and throwing it to Jugo, who caught it. With ninjutsu, your chakra levels and potency are good, but not very high. Your chakra control is pretty good as well. You don't have many ninjutsu, seeing as you didn't use that many. Here. Naruto throws him a chakra paper. Jugo, already knowing what to do, channeled chakra into the paper. At first, the paper split in half. Then, one half started to turn brown and crumble away, while the other half dampened. Naruto whistled, impressed with his 3 affinities. Wind, water, and earth. Not bad. Wind types are extremely rare and are always very powerful. Water can be used for both offensive and defensive, as well as supplementary. It can also be combined with wind to make it more powerful. Earth is used mostly for defense, but could be used for offense too. Naruto continued, explaining the affinities and benefits for Jugo's affinities. In jutsu, I am not gonna even try and just say that you won't use it, right? Naruto asked with a roll of his eye. Jugo nodded his head, knowing that he wouldn't and couldn't use ninjutsu. They both headed towards their teammates. They arrived there a little earlier than Satsuki and Karen, so they watched the battle for a bit. After the battle, Satsuki and Naruto had headed off by themselves to make the schedule and training. Once they had completed the task, they both came back 10 minutes later. Alright, Fu, Karen, come with me, I need to put resistance seals on you too. Satsuki told the 2 women who followed her. Once they reached a faraway place from the boys, Satsuki told them to lay down so she could put the resistance seal up. She took out ink from a storage seal and started to draw the needed fuin on Karen's navel. Once she finished, she moved on to Fu. After putting it on both of them and giving them control, all 3 headed back to the boys. Naruto had also drawn resistance seals on both boys and given them control. They waited for the girls to get back so he and Satsuki could tell the others what they would be trained in. The 3 they were waiting for arrived a minute later. Training for Fu, they trained for 8 hours a day. Naruto and Satsuki had both trained Fu in the ninjutsu parts. The first jutsu she learned was the Kage Bunshin, due to her being a Jinchuriki that granted her high chakra reserves and had learned the jutsu very fast. After that, they had made her create as many clones as the orange-eyed girl could. The Uchiha and Uzumaki heiress had made her create 500 clones each day for multiple tasks. The first 100 were to do chakra control exercises. They upgraded her from water walking to waterfall, walking to Gajo Fuin water walking to Gajo Fuin waterfall walking. The blonde and Ravenet had also both trained Fu clones in her elemental affinities. Naruto gave 100 the leaf-cutting exercise to do for wind to increase the potency. After 5 days of trying she had finally got it. Another 100 during that time were taught a lot of Futon jutsu. The clones were taught Futon, Shinktajoku, Futon, Shinkrenpa, Futon, Shinkjoku, Futon, Shinke, Futon, Repshim, Futon, to Toppa, Fton, Toppa and a few more. After that, he had made sure to get 200 of them to cut a rock in half. He knew that it would not be easy, but it was better than the waterfall, which was harder. Satsuki had taken 200 clones to train them. She had the first 100 train their fire affinity by using a leaf and trying to set it on fire in an instance. This also took 5 days. The Uchiha had the other 100 constantly use the fire jutsus she taught so they could be closer to being mastered. Some of the jutsus Fu learned were Katen, Nkakuk no Jutsu, Katen, Enden, Katen, Gmenka, Katen, Correcten, and Katen. Msenka no Jutsu. When the mint-haired girl completed those, the onyx-eyed girl had took 200 clones for the next 5 days so they could try to evaporate about a gallon of water. She wasn't able to complete it, but Satsuki didn't honestly expect her to. While the clones were learning that over the 10 days, Satsuki had taught the real woman to better her to jutsu. The resistance seal made it hard to move, so she was able to fix any mistakes since she was so slow. She was able to get to level 2 100s thanks to Chimei. They didn't bother doing anything with Yinjutsu, knowing that Chimei would do it for her. What a surprise that had been, knowing that the two worked together. Karen's training. Karen was mostly focused on Taijutsu. She had already learned some jutsu before, so it would make sense to focus on Taijutsu that was an advanced version of your style. Naruto had taken the Taijutsu style of his family and gave it to his cousin. He couldn't exactly give her his own style, so he just helped her improve the one she used, using his one for references. The trek was hard, but she was able to do it with all the clones she made. She had been taught Kage Bunshin by Naruto and could create 300 at max. 100 worked on chakra control for a few days, but later got onto elemental jutsu. She might already have some, but having more would just help more. She had very good chakra control, even enough to use medical jutsu with her Uzumaki reserves. The other 150 were sent out so they could learn Fuinjutsu. The 50 that were left tried to master their chakra chains. They were able to make it faster, but not able to change shapes. The chains were fast enough to catch Jonin level speed, while Naruto's could catch Kage level. She had trained with them before, but didn't know how until she learned from her cousin. The resistance seals didn't get very high for Karen, only up to 2 100s. This was expected since she was just starting. It would take her more time to get used to it and more time as each level increased. When the crimson-eyed girl had complained about why she should do this, they had given all of them the answer. Flashback. Why do I have to learn this? I'm the tracker, not the frontline fighter. Cried out Karen as she panted in exhaustion. Naruto was right in front of her, staring at her. Just because you're the sensor and tracker in the team doesn't mean you can't fight. What happens if you're trapped by someone? What if all of us but you are exhausted and you have to fight an Anbu who might kill us? You are an Uzumaki cousin, and Uzumaki live their lives without regret and never surrender, not even to the gods. The Uzumaki told her calmly. He then addressed all of them, but still looked at Karen. We all have our roles here, but we have to be able to fight. Me and Satsuki can sense people, but not like you. You are our sensor and tracker. Jugo and Satsuki can gather information with either the animals or Sharingan. All of us will, however, be frontline fighters. He told them. The blonde was right after all. They each had more than one field. The two Uzumaki and the Uchiha were the Fuinjutsu and sensors trackers specialists. Though not as good as Karen's, the two cousins were the healers due to their Uzumaki bloodline, giving them the ability to heal people with bites because of the life force they possessed. Yeah, I gave it to Naruto, deal with it. Satsuki and Jugo were the info gatherers due to the aforementioned abilities. The boys and girls, but Karen, were the heavy hitters, specializing in ninjutsu, taijutsu, and/or kinjutsu. Satsuki was the jinjutsu specialist due to the Sharingan. Naruto and Satsuki explained this to the other four and they all understood. Karen too understood this and didn't complain again, and neither did any of the others. Flashback end. Jugo's and Sagetsu's training was similar to the others. They all had to adjust to the resistance seal, but they didn't get to another level. Jugo had to improve his taijutsu style that incorporated his transformations. Both of them had a small supply of ninjutsu, so they were taught more. Neither learned the Kage Bunshin since their chakra wasn't high enough to make it useful. Yugito Nai was jumping through the trees, headed towards the village along with her team of Chunin. She had been assigned an assassination mission by the Reikage. She had accepted the B-ranked mission given to her by her father figure. The muscular man had asked her to choose 3 Chunin to go with her. The Nibi Jinchuriki wanted to choose 3 experienced Chunin to come with her so she could finish it faster, but there hadn't been enough. The blonde got stuck with rookie Chunin instead. The mission required her to assassinate a wealthy noble in the land of hot springs. The noble was apparently guarded by many samurais that were very skilled, at least, that's what the requester said. She had immediately gathered 3 random Chunin and headed out. Finally, all 4 Kumonin arrived at the outskirts Inami town, the town where Zato, the noble, lived. She looked at the Chunin, transformed to look like normal civilians, and make sure there are no traces that lead back to Kumo. Gather info, Yugito ordered as she also transformed. Now, she had long black hair that reached her lower legs, tied in a ponytail. Her face stayed the same, but now with no makeup on. Her Kunoichi outfit was replaced with a blue t-shirt that exposed a bit of cleavage with black flames at the middle black, forming an upside-down V. She now had on black pants with blue shoes. The other three also had on civilian clothes. All three entered through the gates of the small town and walked about. Yugito used her sharp hearing that Matatabi had granted her to listen around to gather information. She heard nothing useful, however, only casual conversations with the occasional business ones. As she continued to head further and further, she finally heard a conversation of Zato. "So we need to pay even more to Zato?" questioned a man. "Yeah, damn bastard making us more than we need to in tax. I wish I could destroy that castle of his. I wish I was a ninja." The other replied. Yugito stopped listening as she had the information she needed and quickly headed towards her teammate's poorly concealed chakra signature. The blonde woman sighed in annoyance at the Chunin's incompetence. There could have been an enemy ninja who could easily kill them right now. Yugito paused her walking. "If I go by myself, I should be able to assassinate this Zato and come back in time. I can't have their incompetence ruin the mission," the blonde woman thought to herself. Yugito then turned from her destination and walked towards the giant castle in the middle of the town. The beautiful woman shook her head at the arrogance of the man. How could he foolishly believe that he wouldn't get hurt and not even try to hide? The Matatabi Jinchuriki walked through the doors and closed it behind her. She could destroy the entire palace, but then, the village would have economic issues that might trace back to Kumo, making it have to pay. Once the doors were closed, Yugito blurred out of sight. She reappeared on the structures of the palace above. She quickly and silently made her way through the area, making sure on being quiet. The Kumo ninja arrived at where the door was below. She looked at the two guards right next to it. Discreetly molding her chakra, the Nai smirked as she channeled lightning chakra to her hands. Even though it was not her chakra nature, she could still use it. Silently, claws slid from their hidden places from the small holes in her gloves. Lightning crackled around it as she quickly descended down to her opponents, a clone right beside her. She appeared behind the armored samurai and covered their mouths so they wouldn't scream and sliced her claws through the weakling. Her clone mimicked her actions, and they both let go, causing the guards to land with a thud on the floor. The elite jonin quickly took the guard's armor. Thank goodness that it was a woman and the armor was more comfortable. "You should strip the male too, you," a perverse voice echoed through her head. So not the time." Yugito screamed to the flaming Biju. Had anyone realized that Biju was actually Jubi with the bi in front? "Just to stop stupid reviews, I said if you switch bi to the beginning of Biju, it would be Jubi. Not that Biju were Jubi, which they are, just fragments. There is always a time," Matatabi giggled again. Yugito's eyes twitched as she transformed herself into the female with armor still on. She opened the door and saw that there were multiple guards looking at her. Not wanting to deal with this and Matatabi's ranting, she sent out a strong burst of killer intent towards them, but kept it contained to the room. The burst knocked out all the guards and she walked through the bodies, not sparing them a glance. "Maybe we can come back and have a th," Matatabi perversely started, but was interrupted by Yugito's mental shout. No." Yugito shouted in rage at what the millennium-year-old female said. She would not give her body to anyone. "Spoil sport," Matatabi pouted at her host. "Besides, we already did it," so technically the woman was once interrupted by the heated shout of her lesbian host. "Yes, I'm serious." That's only you and me," she admitted to the blue-haired woman inside her own mind. The Biju had corrupted her at a young age, but she had been far too disgusted to let any man have their ways with her, so she had made sure to only let Matatabi do that to her. Eventually, she grew to love her, even with the woman's quirks. In the real world, Yugito had reached the door that contained her target. She continued with her disguise and opened the doors once again. "Why are you disturbing me?" Zato asked. Zato has puffy black hair and wears a small pair of sunglasses, as if to make himself look cool. He looked to be around 40. He also wears a purple suit that clashed horribly with his black tie. Yugito was thankful that she had a helmet on or he would see her turn green in disgust. "Yes, he is that ugly." Pictures, now." She screamed at the woman inside her mind. Matatabi, who had blocked of her connection to the side of Yugito, quickly sent some of their private time to Yugito. She then cast a Jinjutsu over her lover to make it so that the Jonin saw a better-looking man in front of her. "Well, what is it?" the ugly bastard shouted. "Oh, right, Lord Zato, there is someone here to meet you," she said, the helmet hiding the devious smirk on her face. "Who?" Zato asked. "A Shinigami." She yelled before she disappeared in front of him. Before he had a chance to react, his head rolled clean of his neck. At least, that was what he felt. What he didn't realize was that Yugito had trapped him in a Jinjutsu. While this was going on in the Genjutsu, Yugito retrieved all the important things from his mind, like where his money was, if he knew any information and anything else she needed. After retrieving it, she then acted out on what the Genjutsu showed, killing the bastard once and for all. After killing Zato, Yugito had taken her team back to Kumo. When asked about their mission, she had quickly told them that she had completed it when she came across the guy and assassinated him after having the pervert come with her to an alleyway. CHCK. A slice of a sword was heard as Yugito quickly jumped away from her position on the tree she was hoping from. Unfortunately for her team, they were too slow and all got killed by the strange scaled sword. Yugito flipped in midair to land on a branch and narrowed her eyes at the man in front of her. She was able to remember the blue-skinned fish in front of her. Isam Hashikage. S-ranked missing nin from Kiri. Wielder of Samehada and has large enough chakra reserves to compare to Jinchuriki. Samehada has the power to absorb chakra. This man possesses more chakra than you and better control. I suggest you try to delay him until someone comes. We are close enough. Try to get closer though, so the clash can be felt easier, Matatabi ordered after sensing the depths of the shark's chakra levels. Alright Ma, Yugito responded to her tenant as she flew towards Kumo. Isam quickly realized what she was trying to do and blurred in front of her before kicking her stomach, sending the blonde flying back and farther away from Kumo. The Jinchuriki recovered from the kick and flipped herself in midair. She rocketed to the blue-skinned man in front of her, using Ma's fire abilities to propel herself like a rocket. Isam ducked under her and did a rear horse kick to her ribs. The woman grabbed the heel of the shoe before it connected to her and flew under him while tossing him up into the air. She quickly went through multiple hand seals and put her hand up as though she was holding something. A blue fire flickered into her hands and started to grow in size until it was the size of a house. Matatabi Arts. Hi Bakuden. She shouted as she did a flip and kicked it up, sending the scorching ball to Kisum. The shark man put his hands to his lips after going through the necessary hand seals. Suiton. Dakendan no Jutsu. Thrusting his hands forward, Kisum sent a large shark at the fireball. Unfortunately for Yugito, her fireball was destroyed and absorbed by the shark, causing it to grow even bigger. Unfortunately for the shark, the attack had been laced with Matatabi's chakra, so when it did absorb it, the shark started to disintegrate. Kisum growled in annoyance as his attack was made useless and decided to use another one that didn't absorb. Ma, what happened? Yugito asked, dumbfounded by how her firebomb and the shark were destroyed. My chakra was absorbed by the shark and since all Bijuu chakra is corrosive, he disintegrated, the bluenet within her replied. The conversation ended when Kisum yelled out the name of another jutsu. Suiton. Sukendan no Jutsu. Once again, Kisum sent a shark at Yugito. Yugito dodged and flew up to where Kisum was falling. She sent a punch to his stomach, but he grabbed it and pulled her with one hand while swinging the unsheathed Samehada with the other. Yugito substituted with a piece of rock on the ground, then appeared above him, trying to hit him in his face with a roundhouse kick. Kisum was sent flying into a tree below before he exploded in a shower of water. Another Kisum appeared above her and she realized what he had done. Suiton. Mizu Bunshin, he whispered into her ear as he slashed Samehada at her. The woman felt some of her chakra from her reserves get absorbed as she was sent to the ground. Quickly moving through the pain, she landed on her feet and looked up just in time to catch Kisum's foot. So the saying, cats always land on their feet is true, huh? Kisum asked with a smirk on his face. She used the leg to twist while trying to land a hit on his face. Before it could hit, Kisum sent his foot to the ground, intent on smashing her against the ground. Yugito saw the plan and pushed herself up so as to not hit the ground. She then focused Ma's chakra into her, lighting it on blue fire, and swung the appendage at Kisum. A blue arc made of fire was sent towards Kisum, who smirked and slashed at it with his sword, causing it to dissipate. Is that all you got? He taunted as the blonde in front of him started twitching. Yugito's eyes twitched as she placed her hands in a triangle. Kisum was curious and being the battle maniac he was, let her continue. Blue flames formed between her fingers and she started blowing at it. Matatabi Arts. Furasupaburu. She thought to herself. Bubbles started to come out of her hand and floated around Kisum, completely surrounding him. Kisum, realizing what she was trying to do, quickly created a clone that trapped him in a suiton. Surum. Unfortunately for Kisum, the bubbles didn't do anything, while the Kumo Jonin tried to jump towards the path of Kumo. Kisum's clone decided that he would chase after her and blurred in her direction. Unfortunately for Yugito, even if he was only 1/10 as strong as his original, he was still pretty fast. He tried to kick her in the face, but Yugito was ready for it and did a mid-air backflip, completely avoiding it and continued. Clone Kisum tried again, but this time, when she dodged, he grabbed her by the waist and threw her up in the air, spinning rapidly. Before the elite Kunoichi could stop herself, she was sent flying towards the opposite direction of her destination. As she flew, she created a small ball of fire and threw it at Kisum. Ah, is that all you can do, little kitty? He insulted as he dodged it. The ball sailed past Kisame, but it exploded in a bright flash when Yugito closed her eyes and said Kai. The flash startled Kisame and turned around. Big mistake there. Yugito sent out a flaming kunai with explosive tags on them. Page kunai bunshin. She yelled. Before Kisame could react, hundreds of them were sailing towards him and all exploded. The shockwave, explosion and propulsion by the force caused it to burst into crystal blue water. Down below with the real Kisame, he had just got out of the water when he heard a loud Kai. Above him. Before he could react, the blue flame bubbles started to spin around him, creating a dome and started shrinking. Kisame put his hands by his side and created a shell of water around himself. Using his water manipulation, he enlarged it and tried to destroy the bubbles. It only half worked as they all exploded like flash bombs. Naruto suddenly stopped as a bright flash to his right set off. He could also sense the enormously large chakra of Kisame Hoshikage, smaller than his own, but beat Satsuki by a large margin. The blonde shinobi quickly changed direction towards the destination where a Jinchuriki might be located while relaying what he had sensed to his tram. Satsuki was quick to follow her newly discovered crush, as were the rest of Team Yuzu, but he looked at the four behind him and told them to stay put. They decided to do as told, even though Sujetsu growled at the chance of missing a fight, especially one with Kisame Hoshikage and a chance of getting Samehada. They quickly arrived at the flash, and Naruto saw Kisame fighting a blonde woman, probably a Jinchuriki. He landed beside her and just before she could attack him, Matatabi told her not to. Don't attack him you. He is my brother's Jinchuriki. He probably will help you if he knew who you were, her lover told her. Hello, my name is Yugito Nai, I am Nibi. She got interrupted by the man next to her. Nibi's Jinchuriki, right? He interrupted. Her eyes twitched at the interruption, but she was able to rein in her temper. I am Naruto Uzumaki, Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, nice to meet you sister, he joked, referring to her as a sister because of being Jinchuriki. Before their conversation could finish, the now clear-sighted Kisame attacked the two. Naruto, deciding the fight wasn't worth it, grabbed both Yugito and Satsuki's shoulder and waist individually, and here I shined them to his team, more specifically, the mark on Sujetsu's sword. They all hid their chakra signature so Kisame couldn't find them and started to talk. Thank you for saving me from that guy, she thanked Naruto. She knew that if the fight had gone on, she would eventually lose. After Yugito had thanked them and they discussed some things, Team Yuzu and Yugito went their separate ways. Hey Naruto, did you get Samehada from Kisame-senpai? Sujetsu asked as they were tree-hopping towards. I still don't know why you want another sword when you can't use two, Fu commented as she used Jime's wings to fly. I want to collect all the swords so I can make 7 more swordsman woman with me as the leader, Sujetsu stated to her. Note that he didn't say 7 more swordsmen of the mist. No Sujetsu, I wasn't there to get the sword, I was there to get Yugito out of there, Naruto answered the question with an eye roll. Damn it. Sujetsu exclaimed with annoyance. After a few hours of tree hopping, they finally got to Konoha. Once they finally arrived, all of Team Yuzu widened their eyes to the scene in front of them. Most of the village had been abandoned. The buildings were almost all destroyed. What few ninjas were here were leading Cuff Ninja to prison. Sakura was walking towards the village gates in hopes of finding Kakashi there. Once she arrived at the northern gates, Sakura widened her eyes, not believing her eyes. In front of her were Naruto, the female Sasuke from her nightmares, and 4 other people she didn't recognize. Naruto. She yelled as she waved to him. Naruto turned his eyes towards her, and Sakura froze. There was no kindness from Naruto in those eyes any longer. The Naruto she knew wasn't there anymore. What did Orochimaru do to him? She asked herself. Finally, her eyes went to the team, and more specifically, to Satsuki. Naruto, who is that? She asked. And where is Sasuke-kun? Both of you did go to Orochimaru after Sasuke took you, right? She asked in a desperate tone. Naruto rolled his eyes at the tone in her voice. The girl behind me is Satsuki Uchiha, what Sakura shouted, not believing that there was another Uchiha alive besides Sasuke and Itachi. Naruto glared at the interruption, causing her to shut up, and continued. She is the real Sasuke. There was never a Sasuke Uchiha. Satsuki disguised herself as Sasuke so the council wouldn't be able to turn her into a breeding stock before she turned 16. Naruto told her. While he hated the girl in front of him, he had to act nice, but not as before cause that would be suspicious. A guy is taken to Orochimaru for 2.5 years and nothing changes. Yeah no. Sakura was in tears, not wanting to believe that a crush was a girl all along. She fell on her knees in shock but realized that behind her, Kakashi wasn't at all surprised, not even a little. Hey Kakashi-sensei, did you already know about this? Sakura asked shakily. Yeah. Naruto and I figured it out in the wave mission. She didn't want us to tell you as you would have told someone and might have repeated until it turned to the council, who would force her into a baby factory before she was 16 and could choose who she wanted. Kakashi told her, remembering back to the reveal. Flashback, the large killing intent blasted everyone on the bridge, causing the Jonin-level ninja to pause in their clash and Sakura to faint like the pathetic little bitch she was. I don't think she could handle a blast, especially from Caillou. And the demonic crystal mirrors. Sasuke. Are you alright, Sasuke? I'm sorry, ninja-san. But your friend is gone. Is this the first time you've seen a friend die? A form in the mist rippled, nearly becoming visible. He's dead. Haku nodded. Yes. I'm afraid so. Naruto felt himself start to shake as Haku began speaking of the pain of being a ninja, the suffering of life, the loss of one's heart, and the service of a ninja, as nothing more than a tool. The masked ninja words poured into his ears as he stared at the body of his teammate, a spike of jagged emotions welling up in his heart. Sasuke was a bastard, a jerk, an annoyingly arrogant jackass, but he was Naruto's teammate, his fellow leaf ninja. Dead. Naruto-san. Haku's voice was questioning, trying to draw out the hidden blonde. The Hidan user was beginning to run out of chakra and needed to find Naruto to end this quickly. I'm going to kill you, Naruto growled out as red chakra started to swirl around and encase him. The form of a one-tailed fox covering Naruto's darkened face. Naruto-san. Haku's only answer was an enormous column of bloody red chakra erupting from right next to one of the mirrors. Haku was suddenly thrown out of the mirror she was within. The mask on her face broke apart and Naruto looked within the brown eyes that held no emotions. You? Naruto questioned as he looked at the girl below him, remembering when he met her a few days ago. Why did you stop? Are you not angry that I have killed your friend? Naruto stole a glance back at Sasuke's still form before reverting his eyes back to the teenager in front of him. Why are you doing this? Why are you with Zabuza? Why are you doing Gato's dirty work? He demanded. Because Zabuza-san is my precious person, he was the one who saved me and for that, I have made myself a tool for him to use. For a moment, a memory flashes through Naruto back at their first encounter. Do you have someone precious to you? Do you have someone willingly wanted to protect? He remembered. Naruto was disgusted at what came from Haku's mouth, but he can also see the familiar look in her eyes. Loneliness, the same way he had felt back when he was alone in the village until Itachi, Iruka-sensei, Kakashi, and Satsuki had come along, even if she was in Sasuke form. Don't talk like that. You are not a tool. You don't have to do what you don't want to. You are a person. Shouted Naruto, his killing intent pulsing a little. Perhaps, but this might be my last thing to do as Zabuza-san's tool. Haku glanced at the direction where Kakashi and Zabuza were at. Naruto, with his eyes still blazing red, could make out a figure of Zabuza immobilized by Kakashi's summoned dogs. Kakashi himself was about to make the final blow, a lighting attack, a technique he created Raiden. Rikiri. This is your end demon of the mist. Kakashi quickly ran towards Zabuza, starting his assault. He was about to pin his attack on Zabuza when suddenly a mirror like ice came into his field of vision and came out Haku. Shit, I can't stop. Kakashi cursed, it felt like slow motion, his momentum not slowing, and his thrust out arm closing into the young girl's chest. A little while later, Zabuza was dying right next to his apprentice. The girl that he thought of as a daughter. Naruto was walking toward Sasuke's body, there was no one on the bridge, the villagers had gone back with Tazuna, while Naruto and Kakashi stayed back. Poof. Sasuke's body went up in smoke. In his place was a raven-haired pre-teenager. Kakashi's eyes widened but was able to compose himself quickly. Sasuke is a girl. Naruto placed his hand on Satsuki's stomach and sent a small burst of chakra along her skin. Naruto, what are you doing? He asked a boy who he had helped in the past as an Anbu. Taking these needles out, Kakashi Nai, Naruto replied to his second brother figure, the first being Itachi. He and Kakashi had developed a strong bond after Kakashi had once rescued him. After that, Naruto was secretly trained in Fuinjutsu, while Itachi had trained his body. Naruto hadn't made much progress back then, but was able to get to level 2 by shinobi standards by 10, where Kakashi stopped training him, not wanting to be discovered by the council. After all, they could just find him training Naruto in a training ground with a shinobi they sent. Kakashi didn't know everything about Naruto, so he didn't know about Itachi, so he didn't know about Satsuki. While they were talking, Satsuki finally woke up. She looked around and saw Naruto and Kakashi looking down at her. The girl looked down and saw pale skin, paler than usual. It was also more feminine. The preteen looked at herself and saw that the transformation Hiruzen had put on her had been undone. What if Naruto finds out the Uzumaki clan was betrayed by Konoha? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.